across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Well, a very good afternoon. This is Talk Drive. I'm Peter Cardwell. Thank you so much for your company. If you're in Birmingham today, you will know, and many people around the country know as well, of course, that it is the Maccabi Tel Aviv match against Aston Villa. There are 700 police officers in the area. Schools have closed early because they're expecting trouble. We were told there would be a safety issue here, but where's the safety issue coming from? Is it the Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters themselves? Some of them are thugs, yes, but others of them are just ordinary Israelis, and others who support Maccabi Tel Aviv. Or is it the Islamists in the area who want trouble, the kind of people who have put up posters saying, for example, Zionists not welcome, and accusing Maccabi Tel Aviv fans of war crimes? Well, if you're an ordinary Israeli, the chances are you haven't committed war crimes because you're an ordinary citizen and football fan. It's anti-Semitism, clear and simple. We will talk about that. We'll talk about the prisoner who's been found 3 days after being accidentally freed. Well done, David Lammy. Slight issue with the guy who's still at large, who is the sex offender. We'll talk to Ian Aitchison about that a little bit later on. Prevent, a record number of referrals. Many of them are children to Prevent, which is the government's anti-terror scheme. We'll talk about pay per mile, as Ian was as well, and the BBC embroiled in yet another aspect of this long-running scandal this week about BBC trans coverage of trans people apparently censored by its own reporters. Is that impartiality? Well, Maxine Croxall, who's one of their news presenters, she's been censured because she changed the words pregnant people to women. That has been upheld. We'll talk about that as well. And the council spending £60,000 tearing down flags, including Union Jacks and St George's crosses. There's so much to talk about today. We'll be live in Birmingham in just a second. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. I want to hear your views on all of this. Let me know your thoughts. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell. You can send me a WhatsApp text message. You can send me a WhatsApp voice message, less than a minute please, or give me a ring, all on the main number 0344 499 1000. Let's get started now on Talk Drive. So the Maccabi Tel Aviv match against Aston Villa, this was controversial, and the reason, or part of the reason it was controversial, was because the local MP, who's an independent pro-Gaza MP called Ayub Khan, he posted this clip shortly after the ban that he campaigned for was announced last month.
Well, excellent news for the people of Birmingham and, most importantly, the residents here in Aston. I launched a petition to oppose the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from coming to Birmingham and then into the Aston Villa Stadium. The surrounding ward of Aston is a ward that sits within my constituency, and I had many residents and businesses express concern of the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from coming into our area. Clearly, we have all witnessed the scenes in Amsterdam, the violence that was displayed by the fans the night before the match. We all watched and listened to those vile chants of hatred and racism, and so there's no space for that kind of behaviour here in Birmingham. There's certainly no space for that kind of conduct in Aston. So I'm very pleased that both the West Midlands Police and Aston Villa Football Club have now written to UEFA informing them of their decision not to allow any fans from entering Birmingham and Aston.
This then went on for a number of days, and then Maccabi Tel Aviv said they weren't actually going to take any tickets that were offered because of the controversy. Now, what Ayub Khan MP conveniently forgets in all that, he's rewriting history, in my opinion, in regard to Amsterdam, because what happened when Maccabi Tel Aviv fans went to Amsterdam was some of them, yes, some of them are thugs, some of them chanted things and did things and pulled down flags and things they shouldn't have done. But many of them were simply targeted. Families were targeted simply for being Jewish. In fact, for a week beforehand, there was a WhatsApp campaign to do what was called a Jew hunt. That then happened, and of the many, many people who were injured, the vast majority of them, both in hospital and who suffered other injuries, were Jewish people simply going to a football match. Let's remind ourselves of an interview earlier on. Alex Phillips, my colleagues, interviewed Ahmed Yaqub, another local who has been campaigning against Israel. This is what he said to Alex.
You're now saying that Israelis aren't allowed to come to Birmingham. What gives you the right to decide that?
The intelligence received by them from the Dutch authorities was that the public of Birmingham won't be safe from these Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, not the other way around.
I know full well what's happened in Amsterdam when Maccabi Tel Aviv went to play there, and there was a Jew hunt going on.
Go on to the Dutch police website, you'll get a totally different picture. You're looking at it from Israeli eyes.
Let's say that is true. Let's say that is true, and we're going to look at...
You're talking over me. Alex, you're looking at things from the eyes of your puppet masters. That's the problem.
From the eyes of your puppet masters. I wonder what he meant by that. I know what I think, and I'm not going to say it on air because he'll sue me, but I'm thinking it. Let's speak to Nick Ellerby. He is our talk reporter live in Birmingham, outside Villa Park. Nick, what's the atmosphere like there now? What do you know about what has been going on so far and what may well happen later this evening?
Good afternoon, Peter. The atmosphere at the moment is, I would say, kind of, there's quite a small number of people around at the moment. Everyone sort of seems to be sizing each other up. What I can see is a huge number of police. We just had dozens of riot police walk past us. I'm outside the Aston Villa Stadium, Villa Park, the Holt End, where all the home fans go. There are 3 big police vans right in front of me. I'm just to the right of me is Aston Park, which is where that big protest. We're expecting potentially tens of thousands of people, a kind of coalition of pro-Palestinian solidarity groups, and they will be calling for Israel to be kicked out of international sporting competitions and showing solidarity with the people of Palestine. What we're not quite clear about, sorry about the noise, this is West Midlands Police van just backing up to my left. What we're not quite sure about is the size of the counter-protest. There may be some pro-Israel groups here trying to kind of counter those pro-Palestinian demonstrators with a protest of their own, and then also Tommy Robinson, the founder of the English Defence League, has said he will attend the game in a Maccabi Tel Aviv shirt after their Maccabi fans were banned from attending. And then the local area has been hugely affected. There are teams out closing some of the streets now. As I say, 700 police on the streets, mounted police as well, dog teams, drones. There's a no-fly zone around Villa Park at the moment to make sure people can't put their own drones up. And then a number of businesses are concerned about what might happen. Some are closing early. A number of schools have closed early. Spoke to a father of one of the local kids here, a school just around the corner, and he said the school had told them to expect up to 20,000 protesters. I spoke to another group of 16, 17-year-old lads who came out of school at lunchtime. They were told to get out of the area. A lot of the students use the local train stations, Witton and Aston. There's heightened security at those as well. A lot of football fans will be coming in there, and I think the schools just wanted all of their students out of this area before any potential trouble. As I say, the pro-Palestinian demonstration begins at 6. The football game itself begins at 8 p.m. Neither a manager of either team wanted to talk about the protests at their pre-match press conference, but the chief executive of Maccabi Tel Aviv, Jack Angelidis, says it's very sad their fans can't attend, and he said he's accused authorities of using his football club as a pawn in a political game. But at the moment, still very, very quiet here. There are a few posters up around the street accusing Israel of genocide in Gaza, and also, as I say, calling for Israel to be banned from international sporting competition. But very much calm at the moment, but a huge amount of concern, I would say, in the local area.
Nick, thank you. That's Nick Ellerby there at Villa Park. We'll check in with Nick later in the programme to see what is happening. In the meantime, I want to speak to Ian Austin, Lord Austin, an indefatigable campaigner against anti-Semitism and someone who's a member of the House of Lords and also an Aston Villa fan. Ian, thank you for your time this evening. This is all just really sad. It is horrendous anti-Semitism that we've seen on the streets there, and the fact that these fans can't get to this match is just a dreadful indictment of our society. What's your view on all of this as an Aston Villa fan?
Well, I agree with all of that, Peter, and thanks for having me on. I sort of wonder what sort of country we've become if people can't go to a football match because of their nationality or because of their ethnicity. I think it is completely unacceptable. But I think what this whole saga illustrates is that we've got big problems with extremism, with anti-Semitism, with sectarian and factional politics. We've seen local politicians whipping this up. We've seen, there was a local cleric who said that Maccabi Tel Aviv fans should be shown no mercy. So I think this illustrates some really worrying and big themes in Britain today, which I think the authorities have got to do much more to face up to.
What do you think of the fact that, as you pointed out there, people were told we can't keep these fans safe? Now, there are, of course, many Israelis who would have wanted to go to the game, but there are many people who are Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from this country as well. There are many Villa fans who maybe would have liked to have gone with their friends who were fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv, and we were told those people couldn't be kept safe. I wonder if that excuse will be used again. At what point do we say, sorry, we can't keep you safe going to synagogue, we can't keep you safe going to school? What point do you sort of give up? And also the other aspect of this that really concerns me, Ian, is the fact that we were never told by the authorities, the question I've been asking right throughout the saga, which is a very simple one: where is the threat coming from? Because Ayub Khan and his ilk would have us believe that it is entirely the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans who are the people to worry about and the perpetrators here. Well, I actually think the threat of Islamism and Islamist violence is incredibly big as well. What do you think?
I think you're right on this. I think to blame the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans is to blame the victims. If you look at I've been going to football matches all my life. I've been a season ticket holder at Villa Park for decades. I've been coming here for over 40 years. And from time to time, when you go to away games in particular, you see people who might have had a bit too much to drink or say things which were unacceptable. But that doesn't justify what the authorities... If a tiny number of Maccabi Tel Aviv fans behave badly in Amsterdam, that's not acceptable. But it doesn't justify what the Dutch authorities described as an organised and planned attack. And if you look at the numbers, as I think you alluded to this earlier, there were I think about 59 people arrested on the day. 49 of them were from Amsterdam, and there were more local Dutch people arrested in the subsequent days. 5 people were hospitalised, and all of them were Israeli. Another 20 people were injured and had to be taken in by the local Jewish community. So to blame the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans for what happened in Amsterdam and to say that that's the reason why they shouldn't be allowed to come to Birmingham is to blame the victims. We all know what's going on here. Just look at the stuff on social media, the pictures that have been posted overnight, the sorts of signs that are being put up, and the sorts of things that some local politicians and so-called community leaders have been saying. And as I said before, I think this raises big questions about extremism, about racism, about sectarian and factional politics. And we've got to ask ourselves what we're going to do about that. This is a country which, what do we believe in Britain? We believe in democracy and equality and freedom and fairness and tolerance. And that's what we've got to stand up for.
Are you going to the match, Ian?
Yeah, I'll be there tonight, yeah.
And what precautions are you taking, or what are you doing to keep yourself safe? You're a pretty high-profile figure in all of this.
Well, look, Peter, I don't want to talk about that for obvious reasons.
Yeah, of course, of course.
But this is... Let me just say, I've been coming here, as I said, for decades. I've had season tickets for well over 20 years. But I'm not... normally I just walk through the area as usual.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I know lots of Villa fans who've... the club... I think the club have been put in a really difficult and impossible position here. Somebody was telling me last night that a fan said, there are still seats unsold for tonight, which is unheard of the night before the European game. It would normally be sold out. Aston Villa have had to put in place really stringent ticketing conditions. You're only able to buy a ticket for this game if you've got a booking history of having been here last year. Yeah. Right, so that they can make sure there's no one getting a ticket they're trying to make sure there's no one getting a ticket for the ground who's here because they're not a football fan and they want to cause trouble or whatever. So they're working really, really hard on this, Aston Villa. Ordinary fans are just appalled, they want to come to the football. They're not part of these problems at all. Mm-hmm. And in addition to people who've not bought tickets that might have done normally, I know lots of Villa fans who've said to me, well, look, Ian, it's on TV tonight. Do I really want to risk going there with all this going on?
And you can see their point. You can see their point, especially if they've got kids. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are lots of Villa fans who bought tickets for tonight who won't be going either. Yeah. And I think that's incredibly sad. As I said before, what sort of country have we become where this sort of thing is acceptable?
Ian, thank you. That's Lord Austin, Ian Austin, speaking to us there. He's going to the match tonight. Chris has been in touch and says, as I've said many times, let's just say it as it is, the banning of Israelis and Jewish supporters at the Villa match is a blatant act of anti-Semitism, actioned and supported by a pro-Gaza independent MP with an axe to grind regarding the war against Hamas and Gaza post 7th of October 2023 in a Muslim majority area. Well, Ayub Khan isn't here to speak for himself, but I think a lot of people, including me, will agree with that, Chris, and we have played his reaction to all of that. John says, just a quick one on the Villa match today. Imagine if a German team had banned Tel Aviv fans, there would be an outcry, says John and Leicester. There should be more of an outcry about this, actually. We're not souping this up, we're not whipping this up. I want there to be a perfectly clearly and completely calm match tonight. I wish both teams the very, very best for the competition. But it is just such a sad indictment of our society. It makes me really sad and really angry that we've got to this level. Liam's in Bedfordshire. He's given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Liam, you're very welcome to the programme this evening. What would you like to say?
Yeah, thank you, Peter. So I'd almost like to say thank you to Maccabi Tel Aviv for not making a bigger issue out of this as they could have done. But my real point is, we're talking about Birmingham, okay?
Yeah.
They're struggling to pick up their rubbish. Who's funding this? So you've got 700 police, you've got drones, you've got horses. That's got to be £500,000
easily
in expenses at least.
Yeah. To say nothing, Liam, of the fact that a lot of those officers will be doing overtime, they'll be paid more, or they'll be taking leave days in order to do that, or getting time in lieu or whatever. So this will be very disruptive to the people in Birmingham who will receive a lesser service of police, or there'll be less police on hand, fewer police on hand to actually police Birmingham after this match.
So normally it would fall on the football club to fund the police for a normal game. This isn't a normal game. The protesters, are they funding any of this? I suspect not.
And it is often those football teams that have to bear the brunt of it. Now, they've got lots of money, but nonetheless, they shouldn't have to pay for that. Liam, you make some really good points. Thank you for your call. Thanks to Tad, who says events in Birmingham might yet prove to be a watershed moment. It is just a matter of time before caliphates are declared in several places throughout the land. The Labour government are the most treacherous in British history. They allowed this to happen in pursuit of a built-in gerrymandered majority. We now have a massive problem. Sean in Bridlington says, I hope the Villa fans get some Israeli flags into the game tonight. Derek says, are the authorities going to take the signs and Palestine flags down because they might be a danger to traffic? Well, it's really interesting. We have an item a bit later on, a story a bit later on, about the £60,000 bill to take down an awful lot of flags as well. Elisa in Chelmsford says, it is interesting that Prince William is a Villa fan, but he's remained silent. Does he think this is okay? Because anyone with half a brain can see this is all down to Jew hatred. Imagine how much positive impact he would have. Well, the royals usually, not all the time, but usually stay out of politics. He's in Brazil very conveniently for the Earthshot Prize at the moment, so I think it is unlikely Prince William, the Prince of Wales, will be at Villa Park. What do you think of all of this? 0344 499 1000. Let me know what you think here on Talk Drive.
I think it's disgusting that there are essentially no-go areas in our country for British Jews. We should never have allowed this situation to happen. Football matches should be able to go ahead, and fans, British Jews or fans from overseas, have to be able to come and enjoy these matches. What's happened in Birmingham is a total disgrace. And remember, when this was first announced, the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary said that they were aghast and that they were going to sort it out. They failed.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Thank you to Dan in Hartlepool, who says, Peter, something that a lot of people aren't saying about tonight. If we're banning fans for violence, why are we not banning anyone coming from places with known violent issues? We're welcoming thousands of unknown men daily, yet we can't let in a few hundred fans for one night. What's the difference other than religion, says Dan in Hartlepool. Stephen Cambridge says, as an Aston Villa fan of 50 years, I think it's a shame that politics is involved. The question is, if no away fans are allowed and it kicks off, it will be obvious who the troublemakers are, and what will the PC police do? Jane says, unfortunately tonight's football match will show everyone in the world how much trouble the UK is in. Everyone in SW1 in Westminster should hang their heads in shame. It is down to them. Well, Ian Aitchison is a counter-terrorism and prison safety expert. I want to talk about prisons in a second, but Ian, I'm afraid you have the curse of being someone who can have an opinion on so many different issues, something that's followed us both round most of our life. In regard to Birmingham, Ian, I do wonder what your view is on this in terms of how the police will handle this. There are 700 of them, and the fact that there's been so much anti-Semitism, there have been so many posters up already. What is your view of this in regard to how we go forward and how tonight is hopefully peaceful, of course, but also the implications on a longer term basis of what's a safe big event and what isn't?
Well, I think it's always sad, first of all, when politics collides with sport. It's a shame that Maccabi Tel Aviv weren't allowed to bring their supporters over here. That was an almost unprecedented decision. I think it's an act of craven cowardice. And even though they're not coming over this evening, the police have still mounted an enormous operation in order to guarantee the security and the safety of those Villa fans who will be attending. And I think you nailed it absolutely. We're not talking about 700 extra police officers. You said in your previous comments, Peter, that I heard. We're talking about probably exhausted police officers, existing officers that aren't in their communities, that aren't, looking after their neighbourhoods and catching burglars and rapists and so on. They've been redeployed to manage this absurd situation of a match where, the travelling fans entirely were banned from coming to watch a football match, which is, what we want to see is tough action taken anywhere where there are fans coming from any particular team who are intent on causing disruption and disorder. That's what we have football banning orders for in this country, and we're able to get control of that, and I'm sure there's an equivalent in Israel. But I mean, that's water under the bridge now. These fans weren't permitted to travel. I think that's a mistake. And I think the police have to demonstrate tonight that they're going to take a very firm line against people who simply want to wish to use this occasion for yet more sectarian trouble.
I think all of that makes sense. I want to ask you about David Lammy now and the fact that there is still a foreign-born sex offender who is still at large. This is what the Justice Minister, Alex Davies-Jones, said about the crisis management in our prisons this morning on the BBC.
We are convening an urgent meeting of the governors of the prisons to try and figure out exactly what is going on the ground, because these, again, are the men and women dealing with this day in, day out. And we've tasked Dame Lynn Owens to get to the bottom of this with a rapid review and bring forward suggestions of how we can fix this more broadly. But ultimately, this isn't going to be fixed overnight. It's totally unacceptable, and we are working at pace to fix it.
they're working at pace. They're not just working to fix it, they're working at pace. I, for one, am very reassured by that. Ian, she said, that is Alex Davies-Jones there, Justice Minister, she said, they're convening an urgent meeting to find out what is happening on the ground. Why don't they know that already? I mean, they're the Justice Ministers. They should know every single day what's happening on the ground.
I must say I had my head in my hands listening to that interview this morning. Clearly, she's a human sandbag who's been dragged in front of David Lammy, and she was taking, bullets and bayonets all over the place to suggest that the problems in our prisons can be solved, that really underpin what has been happening with these releases and errors by, bringing prison governors into central London to scold them, or a bit of extra tech, is absolutely risible. She knows less, if it's possible, about what's going on than David Lammy seems to do. Look, it's really clear here. If you've got a system that is racked with so much dysfunction, as the prison system is at the moment in our country, these sorts of errors are almost guaranteed. What am I talking about here? I mean, I probably talked to you, Peter, more than any other commentator about this, and it feels like Groundhog Day in a way. But look, we've got record levels of prisoner-on-prisoner homicides inside our prison system. Another one has allegedly happened just yesterday when this other story broke in, supposedly one of the most secure prisons, HMP Wakefield. We've got record levels of atrocious assaults on frontline prison officers. We have multiple instances of sexual misconduct and misbehaviour by female officers with prisoners. We've got some prisons, including high security prisons, where there are cell window deliveries of drones hovering like wasps over these institutions, delivering drugs and God knows what else. We've got an entire system that's in disarray, and where you don't have a foundation of order and control in these places, which is plainly the case in Wandsworth, which has been in special measures for years, you're going to get these sorts of things happening, I'm afraid, because there is no esprit de corps anymore in the prison service. As
a former governor yourself, what would you do specifically about Wandsworth? I mean, you've got evidence of a female prison officer, a video of her having sex with a male prisoner. You've got Daniel Khalif, who escaped 2 years ago, and 2 prisoners who've been released in the last couple of weeks who shouldn't have been. That's what we know about.
Yeah.
Never mind everything else. What would you do about Wandsworth specifically?
Do you know, I was head of security in Wandsworth in the mid-90s when the state actually was in charge of the prison, and we were certainly in charge of the prison. And, so I feel what's happening for the staff and the governor there. And the glib answer would be to close the place. Because it almost feels like the problems inside Wandsworth, which are emblematic, those problems I've listed, of problems elsewhere, overwhelmed staff, overcrowded and horrible conditions, extreme levels of violence and drugs, etc. So I'm not sure what the answer is, immediately. I think we've got to get a grip on the violence inside prisons that is driving a lot of these problems. But, I've said, I've been on the media a lot recently, and I've said, instead of losing his temper with his, shadow opponents, David Lammy needs to turn his ire on the people that are running this system, that have run it into the ground, that are relentlessly relying on, if only we had any, some more resources, Minister, all of this would be sorted out for months and years. If this problem was going to re-emerge anywhere, it would have done so at Wandsworth. It took 48 hours less for David Lammy's, most tough checks ever announcement to go up in flames.
Yeah.
So he must surely think, well, what are all these people that are operating at the top of the prison and probation service, very handsomely paid by you and me and your listeners, what the hell are they all doing? Why does it take, these things breaking on the front page, or the accident of an independent inspection in prisons, to tell me how bad things are? What about all these people we're supposed to be paying, these directors general, chief operating officers, area managers? There's an enormous bureaucracy of people squatting on top of the poor prison governor, who doesn't even have any choice over what people get recruited and trained and sent to his or her prison, that are actually much more part of this problem than a lot of people would like to admit.
And finally, I just wondered if I could ask you, Ian, about the fact that we're going to talk about this more in a second with the former head of the National Counter-Terrorism Security Office, but I just wonder what you think about the fact that with the PREVENT scheme, statistics out today show that the majority of people sent to it, or more and more people under 16, are being referred to PREVENT.
Yes, I mean, I think it's probably natural after what happened with the atrocious murders committed by Axel Rudikabana that, you know, a lot of these authorities, public authorities, that do have a legal duty to pay due regard to stop people being drawn into terrorism. I think it probably,
it's probably inevitable that those numbers would go up. Yeah.
But you know, I think what's going to happen with PREVENT, unfortunately, is it's going to be absolutely overwhelmed with need. There are a lot of people here who are inadequate, sad individuals who need mental health support or other forms of support, who are being drawn into the orbit of counter-terrorism. We need PREVENT to stop the people tomorrow who are going to walk onto a train or walk into a shopping centre with a bomb or a gun or a knife and, you know, kill people for ideas. I think, unfortunately, PREVENT has now been swamped by a lot of stuff that it shouldn't have any involvement with at all. That should be for other agencies.
Ian, thank you. Ian Aitchison there, counter-terrorism prison safety expert. Appreciate him joining us on the programme. Lots of discussion coming into the building about the prison system and indeed about Maccabi Tel Aviv. Monica in Sheffield saying, I find the scenario in Birmingham frightening and deeply disturbing, and the government should crack down on this racism against Jewish people and white people. We've been too complacent. This has to be stopped now. If not, our country, as my forebears fought for, is lost, says Monica. We'll talk more about the PREVENT aspect of this, the record number of referrals to the government's anti-terror scheme. Stay with us here on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Lots of people getting in touch, particularly about this match between Maccabi Tel Aviv and Aston Villa in Birmingham this evening. Jack is in Wolverhampton. He sent me a voice note. You can do the same thing on 0344 499 1000. Let's hear from Jack.
I just find it absolutely disgraceful what's happening in Birmingham. I just don't understand how two sets of fans can't go to watch their team play. This country is just going to the dogs. This is just anti-Semitism gone mad. It's mental. People fought against this, and this is what's happening now. Disgraceful.
Jack, you're absolutely right. Let's hear from Damon.
This football match tonight should have been stopped. It should have been stopped by Villa Park and played on a neutral ground where both teams and both sets of fans could have enjoyed a game of football. But this is deeper than something else. This is something that we've now allowed to happen, where certain groups of community can say, that's not going to happen, we're going to protest.
Damon, I think you're spot on this, Damon and Wigan there. I'm not sure I agree. I absolutely agree with your final point. I'm not sure I agree about the neutral venue. Stephen's been in touch as well from Manchester, and he says if the local police couldn't guarantee the safety of Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, UEFA should have insisted the match to be played at a neutral venue. What do you think about that idea that both Damon and Stephen have put forward? 0344 499 1000. In fact, I'll put that point now to Chris Phillips, who's the former head of the National Counter-Terrorism Security Office. We'll talk to him more about prevent in a second, Chris, but you've been responsible for the security of many large events over the years. Chris, when you look at what's happening in Birmingham, when you look at that match and you look at those suggestions from our viewers and listeners that maybe it should have been in a neutral venue, what would you advise in that situation?
Well, I mean, clearly this was going to be a problematical game, particularly after the banning. Actually, the banning of the away fans was the thing that tipped this over the edge into being a high-risk game. I think the simple fact for me, though, is if the West Midlands Police and the local services couldn't deal with the situation, then the game should have been awarded to Maccabi Tel Aviv, unfortunately, because I think we've got to get. There are many groups of desperate and dangerous fans out there. You know, Millwall, Birmingham have all got fans. If you're going to start banning away fans simply because of an issue like that, then you're never going to have a game.
You're right, Chris. We live in a world where for a few years, Rangers and Celtic in their respective times when they played either at Celtic Park or at Ibrox, the away fans didn't go. They've managed to sort that out. Those games are largely peaceful affairs. The police are dealing with that. You talk about fans from other clubs that have sometimes needed a bit of extra. I mean, I come from Northern Ireland. My family are very into local football. We've been to all sorts of matches and all sorts of areas where people didn't exactly welcome people from my background and vice versa when it came to Catholics. We managed to get over that, but this should be something that is available to do and something that is reasonable to expect people to go to and remain safe at. I also wonder, the question I've been asking for weeks now is, no one in authority will say the threat comes from either Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. I think some of them can be thugs and can be dangerous, but actually surely the main threat is coming from Islamists here.
Well, that's the key point, isn't it? It's the fact that the away fans have been banned. The police still feel the need to put on 700 extra officers. So, what was the threat from? The threat wasn't from the away fans so much as the as people who lived in the area. And we've got to get a grip on this. We're so weak and pussyfooting around dealing with these issues. This is not acceptable. And the UK has always been able to deal with these sort of things. And you know, I've been to Millwall. Let me tell you, I've been to Millwall, and it's been an absolute battle with bricks being thrown and all sorts. And you know, we've got to be able to deal with this.
We're a bit Millwall sometimes at this station. Everyone hates us and we don't care. Right. I jest. Tell me about Prevent anti-terror scheme referrals spiking after the Southport attack. Chris, what do you make of that? They've hit a record high of 8,778 in the year to March. Is that something you would have expected to happen? Is that a reasonable thing?
Well, I think if I was a teacher and I was hedging my bets as to whether someone should be reported or not after the Southport incident, I would definitely report someone to the Prevent strand, wouldn't you? I mean, it really is. You know, you don't want to take that risk.
Of course.
However, of course, what actually happens is if everything's a priority, then nothing's a priority, and the resources just aren't there to deal with the sheer numbers of people we're talking about now. So someone has to do some risk assessments around who should be at the top of the list to be dealt with, and who should be at the bottom and ignored. And those, you will always have mistakes there, and you know, no risk assessment process is going to be perfect.
Chris, that's a really great piece of analysis. Thank you. That's Chris Phillips there, former head of the National Counter-Terrorism Security Office. Rick has been in touch on Twitter and he says, pressing on with his ridiculous rhetoric, Maccabi fans were singing songs glorifying raping Arabs in Amsterdam, have already been banned from stadiums and have just had a match abandoned due to violence. Stop treating them like victims, says Rick. I have not said at any point that there are not some thugs, some horrible people who are fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv. The fact is it's not the majority of them, and to ban every single fan is a lot more and is a massive overreaction to this. And where does the danger come from? The danger may come from some of those fans, but most of them are peaceful people. Many of them were targeted at the Amsterdam match. We know that there were injuries. There were people who were told, that there were people in Amsterdam who went on what they called, and I quote, a Jew hunt. There's no reason why Maccabi Tel Aviv fans can't go to this match tonight, or shouldn't be able to go to this match tonight. I think it's an absolute disgrace. So, Rick, I'm not shying away from the fact that in any large group of people there are going to be people who are horrible. That is going to be the case. Certainly when it comes to Maccabi Tel Aviv, that is true. The problem is that the threat comes from Islamists, and I notice you don't mention that in your message. Stephen's in Sheffield and has given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Stephen, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Right, afternoon, Peter and Chris. My point is this. First of all, I want to make it abundantly clear that the way that Jewish people are treated in this country is nothing short of appalling, and it's an abomination. That's the first thing I want to say.
Agreed.
However, this game tonight is a powder keg, and in my opinion, it's going to go off. And in actual fact, I don't even think the game will manage to be played.
Well, let's hope it does go ahead peacefully. But I totally understand your concerns, Stephen.
The point is, that may well be the case. We all wish that.
Yeah.
But the point is, from a purely security point of view, nothing to do with anti-Semitism.
Yeah, sure.
This match is going ahead because the government, through their incompetence and the way that they've allowed anti-Semitism to thrive in this country, they've put themselves in a position where they've got to let this match go ahead, because if they don't, then it appears that they can't protect the Jewish people. So they're having to let it go ahead to save face, but from a purely security point of view, I would think that the letting this go ahead and the potential for trouble is madness.
I think it's a really interesting point you raised there, Stephen, and for the local security advisory group, maybe they're actually not the villains in this. Maybe they're not. Maybe they simply said, look, I think they were influenced. I think Ayub Khan has questions to answer in this. There was a dedicated campaign. But if you're looking at something as a security person and you're saying, is there a risk if this match goes ahead, yes or no? But as you correctly say, Stephen, the risk didn't come from nowhere. The risk has been allowed to grow. The anti-Semitism has been allowed to grow. And that didn't just happen a few weeks ago, did it? It's been growing for a long time.
That's right, yeah. And it's the government that's fault. They have allowed this atmosphere to flourish. And if other football firms turn up, which, let's be honest, they probably will, I don't believe personally that the police have got the numbers to contain it.
Yeah, well, there's 700 of them. Let's hope it does.
700?
Yeah. Forget
it. I mean, the amount of Muslims that's going to be there around the villa.
Well, not all Muslims are violent, as we know, and some of them may be peacefully protesting.
Yeah, and a lot of Germans were nice people in the Second World War as well, weren't they?
Stephen, you've made me think. Thank you for your thoughts. I appreciate them. That is Stephen in Sheffield. Appreciate that. Different views on this, and we like all sorts of views right throughout the spectrum. Read out what Rick said earlier. He clearly disagrees with me. That's fine. We disagree without being disagreeable on my shows. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. We're going to talk about the junior doctors in a second. Guess what? They've rejected the latest offer. They're preparing to strike. We'll speak to a former health minister in just a second, and we'll get more of your views on the big topic of the day, that big match tonight in Birmingham. 0344 499 1000.
mean, honestly, Pete, a manhunt, the prison service, tell me some sense, please.
David Lammy, hereafter known as the Monopoly Minister, because everybody receives a get-out-of-jail-free card. Really appalling, particularly with the Algerian prisoner. The police were not notified for 6 days, so he had a proper head start on the police, and quite simply, he could be anywhere on the globe right now.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
So the good news is Never Keir here is unsurprisingly not in the UK, not in one of his rare visits to the country he happens to be Prime Minister of. David Lammy, he's in control, he's got a steady hand on the tiller, no problems whatsoever, apart from, you know, a few people who've escaped from prison, a few people who've been released from prison early, that kind of thing. Never Keir is in Brazil at the moment, solving the environmental problems that we have at COP30, the environmental conference of parties it's called. Who's not there? China, India and the United States. What are they responsible for? Oh yeah, 50% of global emissions. We're responsible for 1%, so obviously Keir Starmer can solve all the problems. Another problem he's facing is the fact that junior doctors in England have rejected a fresh offer from the government to end the long-running row over jobs and pay, saying it doesn't go far enough. Well, we gave them, or West Streeting more accurately, gave them a 22% pay rise shortly after Labour come to power. Now they're asking for a 30% pay rise. Should we give it to them? What do you think? 0344 499 1000. James Bethell, Lord Bethell, is a former health minister. James, thank you for joining us this evening. Are you in any way surprised that the offer that's been put to these junior doctors by West Streeting has been rejected?
Shocked, but not surprised. I spoke to a senior official this morning, and she said, I have my head in my hands. And I think that phrase characterises how we're all feeling about this. It's absolutely extraordinary, Peter. I was in America yesterday at a health conference near the White House, and the talk was of AI, of huge disruption in our health system, about the crisis around recruiting doctors, about the huge opportunities there are from technology. And I come back to this letter, which reads like something that might be sent to British Leyland in the 1970s. There's no doubt that our doctors are under huge pressure, and maybe I would like to pay them more, but their productivity and what they're achieving for our health system in terms of the health of the nation simply isn't working, and they need to rethink this approach.
So it looks as if another strike is on the cards from the 14th of November to the 19th of November. How can West Streeting solve this? How can he prevent the strike? What would you do in this situation if you're still in government, James?
He has my genuine sympathy. He really does. I do remember how patronising and sneering Labour colleagues were when we faced the same problem. I remember when poor old Steve Barclay was tangling with the doctors. My goodness, Labour front bench gave him a very hard time. I hope they now appreciate how difficult this constituency are. They need to talk about conditions. They need to talk about productivity. At the last negotiation, neither of those were really on the table. Instead, we got an NIC rise of 2%, and the whole country is paying for their salary increase without any improvement in performance. That's the root of it, Peter.
On that point, James, that you mentioned about conditions, the junior doctors are arguing that there isn't a level of job security that there should be. Have they got a point in that?
There is definitely more doctors with less work than there was 5 years ago. But my goodness, they should have some self-awareness. In the private sector, do you think you have much job security? Do you think you have a massive pension and a contribution of 20, 25, in some cases 27%? There is a sense of entitlement and lack of awareness amongst today's doctors that is really dangerous. And they're going to bring down trust in the NHS altogether. we're not far from the NHS becoming like the Metropolitan Police, where public sympathy for those involved completely collapses.
That's a very interesting point, and one that will fester. James, thank you. That's James Bethell there, Lord Bethell, the former Health Minister. Thank you for joining us on Talk. I want to play a voice note from Darren on the Aston Villa match. He sent this in on 0344 499 1000. Here's Darren.
So, Villa fans tonight, you have your chance to show the world what you are all about. Let's see the banners that say, "No room for politics in football." We stand with Israel, fans. We stand with Israel. Whatever. Let's just see those Israel flags. Let's just go against the grain. Let's just pull back against this government lead. Let's see what they come up with. Let's see if we're disappointed or not.
Thank you for that, Darren. Thanks also to Neil, who says, meanwhile in Aston, the criminals and shoplifters will be out in force while the police are occupied elsewhere tonight. What are the police exactly policing if no supporters are there? Well, Neil, as I go back to this point time and time again, the problem is the threat from Islamists, certainly. And if Maccabi Tel Aviv fans are there when they shouldn't be and they're causing trouble, well, they should be arrested and they should have the full force of the law against them. Absolutely. There's no law breaking that I will condone. Similarly, if there are Islamist people there who are protesting and not in a peaceful way, if they're causing trouble, they have to be arrested. There has to be equality before the law and a lack of two-tier policing. And that is something that I am not going to stop banging on about, because it is now 131 days since Bob Villan, since the Glastonbury event where Pascal Robinson Foster was the singer, I use the term loosely, for Bob Villan, who was at Glastonbury, who shouted, "Death, death to the IDF." We have a standing bid for the Chief Constable of Avon and Somerset Police, Sarah Crew, to come on and to tell us why he hasn't been interviewed or arrested or charged. We had a statement from them last week saying they were reviewing guidance from the CPS. Has that review finished? Are you closer to taking actual action on this, or are you just running the clock down? That's something that Avon and Somerset Police would deny. We're going to keep talking about that story. I'm going to keep talking about it every single day. 131 days since that happened. Kevin's in Dorset and wants to talk about Aston Villa. Kevin, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hi, Peter.
Hi there.
Yeah, I'm coming from a different angle. Whilst I feel this match should go ahead and the fans should go along to it and everything should be peaceful, as you quite rightly point out, 700 police to police what? Because if there's no fans there, then there is no threat, there is no problem. I think this is a test by the community, and I'm sorry to say it, but either the pro-Palestinian community stroke Islamists, to see how far they can push this government or the people of this country in claiming their area to be for themselves. And having the power to be able to push people to stop people coming to an event which they should be entitled to go to enjoy a football match. And as you quite rightly said, all the way along, but it's what the bigger picture is, and it's always about the bigger picture. Yeah. We saw already what happened in London in Tower Hamlets. The demonstration was cancelled because of a risk, but all of the Islamists came out. They surrounded Tower Hamlets.
Yeah, we reported on that at the time. Yeah.
They semi-attacked the hall, from my understanding. There were imams in the street saying we do not want people in this area unless they're Muslims, basically demanding that this is their area. And here we have it again, and it's going to keep happening until the establishment puts their foot down and says, hang on a minute, this is Britain.
Will they, though? This is it, Kevin. All of that makes total sense, and these are really intelligent points I'm hearing from you today, as I often do when you give me a ring. The point is, are the establishment, are the authorities actually going to say, do you know what, this far and no further? Because I think they'll go, oh, it's all a bit difficult, and oh, we don't want to be seen as racist, and da-da-da. There have got to be British values here.
Unfortunately, I believe our government are in on it. And I say this to you, Peter, because I had a conversation with a gentleman, and I can't say too much because otherwise it will identify me. He was a Pakistani, and he told me that the Prime Minister had made it very clear to all the Muslim community that he was doing everything he could for them. Now, that comes straight from the horse's mouth of a person. And when this person said this to me, I was absolutely appalled. And I said...
Surely Keir Starmer would say that to any community group, would he not?
Well, the way this gentleman was talking about it was the conversation we'd had on that particular day was about the state of the country.
Okay.
And he was saying, no, your Prime Minister is an excellent man.
Kevin, I've got to go to the news. I'm not cutting you off. It's mainly just for time. We've got to go to the news. But thank you, Kevin and Dorset. There are many intelligent points. I want to hear more of them between now and 7 o'clock. Give me a shout. 0344 499 1000.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Thank you so much for your company here on Talk Drive. It's just gone 5 o'clock. I'm Peter Cardwell. Some breaking news for you, and that is that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been ordered to appear before congressmen in Washington, D.C. for questioning over his links to the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. This is a letter sent to the former Duke of York today. Democratic members of the House Committee on Oversight say they believe he may have crucial information about co-conspirators and enablers of Epstein's crimes. I expect the royal family wanted it all to go away and for it to be very, very quiet. Instead, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, former Duke of York, ordered to appear before congressmen in Washington, D.C. for questioning over his links to the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. If there's any development on that between now and 7 o'clock, of course, we'll bring it to you. We're talking about the big game in Birmingham tonight as well, Maccabi Tel Aviv, and what is happening there. The fans not going to the match, certainly. Will they be in the surrounding area? We'll talk to someone who's going to that match in a second, and our reporter is on the scene. We'll get your calls as well. Loads of people want to get on, and we're actually dropping items. We're actually saying we're not going to do certain stories because there's so many people who want to get on, and this is my show, but it's your show too, and I want to make sure that as many voices get on there. Keep your calls coming in. We'll get as many of them on the air between now and 7 o'clock. 0344 499 1000. We'll talk about the BBC as well, the trans coverage censored by its own reporters, allegedly, and the fact that one of its newsreaders has been wrapped over the knuckles, more than that actually, for rolling her eyes when in an auto cue it said the words that pregnant people were involved. In fact, the word she was looking for were women. She said it, and now she's been criticised for that. This comes in a week where the BBC has been hauled over the coals itself for so many different issues, not least its coverage of Israel, not least doctoring a clip of Donald Trump. We'll talk about the sport too this hour as well and bring you up to date on all of that. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell. You can send me a voice message. We've been playing those out as well this afternoon. 0344 499 1000. That's also the number for calls, as I say, and also for WhatsApp text messages. Loads to discuss between now and 7 o'clock, particularly that match in Birmingham. We'll go there live in just a second here on Talk Drive. Just before we go to Birmingham, I want to read you a message from Dawn that says it all. Dawn says, "Hi Peter, prisoners are being released by mistake. Birmingham is almost a no-go area. Where is Starmer? He's out of the country. Naturally, we are seriously lacking in leadership," says Dawn. Dawn, I couldn't have put it better myself. But we've got David Lammy. He's in control, hasn't he? He's got his finger on the pulse. He knows what's going on. The Deputy Prime Minister. Yeah. Let's go live to Birmingham now. Nick Ellerby is our talk reporter there outside Villa Park. We're getting closer to the match now, Nick. You can see police officers actually just walking behind you there, a big police van as well. 700 of them apparently this evening. Just tell us what's going on there.
Good evening, Peter. The police presence now, darkness has descended. I can see 12 different police vans just on this street on Trinity Road outside Villa Park, the ground of Aston Villa. I'm outside Holt End where all the sort of fanatical home supporters go. Can hear the police dogs as well barking in the background. There's a couple of dog unit vans behind me. We know there are mounted police here today as well. There are huge numbers of riot police, and actually the guy in charge has just stationed quite a lot of officers along the pathway. It looks like there's a kind of ring of steel being placed around the stadium. What we've got is a huge pro-Palestinian demonstration, potentially thousands of people, just off Trinity Road into Aston Park to my right-hand side, which is next to the ground. And what they'll be asking for is for Israel to be kicked out of international sporting competitions, and they also want to show solidarity with the people of Palestine. Potentially on the other side, what you've got is a counter demonstration going on. We don't know how many people will be attending that one, and because there's no kind of set route or planned route for these protests, the police are a little bit just kind of playing it by ear as we go. The knock-on effect to the local community is definitely a lot of people concerned about what's happening. A lot of local businesses concerned as well, some shutting early, a lot of schools closed early, and that's because they wanted their students out of this area before what they told me was the congestion and disruption to come. And then in terms of the football match itself, neither team wanted to address these questions of the political protest before the game. But, you know, I think a lot of fans are staying away. We know there are thousands of tickets unsold. The Maccabi fans are prevented from attending. The away end at Villa Park is going to be closed. I've spoken to a number of people who are, I would say, the people I've spoken to who are more concerned are the ones with kids. And also women on their own maybe staying away. But I've spoken to a lot of people as well here that are just annoyed that politics is overshadowing something that they enjoy doing in the evening and the weekend, and that's watching a game of football. That kicks off at 8 p.m.
It's pretty dark obviously now. When it's been lighter earlier, you've presumably seen quite a lot of these anti-Semitic signs around talking about genocide, talking about Zionists, kick Zionists out of the country and out of football. Just tell us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so there have been a few signs put up. Actually, yesterday there were a bunch of signs put up on the motorway, over the motorway here, close to here to Villa Park. One that read, "Red card for Israel, November the 6th, AVFC," that's Aston Villa, game over Israel, sanction Israel now. Another one read, kick Israel out of FIFA, and then also blaming the BBC for covering up what they call crimes, and another one saying end UK complicity, stop arming Israel, and then others also saying if you spot a Zionist, call the anti-terror hotline. Also, two people tried to put up a banner calling for a boycott of Israel in international competitions up on the railings of the Villa Park Stadium earlier today, and then they were told to take that down by police. Police, I mean, as I say, 700 officers here. The presence is absolutely huge. Further down the road, there are people arriving for that protest, but at the moment it's more stalls selling flags and Palestinian football shirts. But a number of people arriving for that, but we're not quite sure how many people to expect. One of the dads at the local primary school told me that the school told him there could be up to 20,000 people here for that protest. But it's really, really overshadowed this game tonight between Aston Villa and Maccabi Tel Aviv in the Europa League.
Nick, thank you. We'll check in an hour with our reporter Nick Ellerby live there in Birmingham. One of the fans who is going to the match is Johnny Gould, no stranger to this station as a commentator and presenter, of course. He is a big Aston Villa man himself. Johnny, what are your thoughts as you go to the match this evening?
Peter, a very good evening to you. I am en route to the game, and sadly, I'm also en route to what I believe to be a police-controlled counter-protest, which will, I hope, pass without too much more than bluster. I want to say something else to you, Peter, which is I'm very glad to be with you here on Talk, because I've just done an interview on the BBC where it was quite a hostile interview, and they drew a moral equivalence between the Amsterdam hooligans and the small band of Israeli supporters. And I'm kind of sick and tired of the moral equivalence that you sometimes get on the BBC, and which is being highlighted in a lot of articles in the Daily Telegraph over the last few days.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that later on the show. 19-page report. They're interested, the BBC, what they've done today is they have censured a presenter who replaced the words pregnant people with women, yet they can't get to grips with a 19-page report that shows a Trump clip was doctored, and what you have just said there, which is that they have a serious problem with how to cover the Middle East.
I tell you what, Peter, they are on a straight track in editorial terms, whilst they'll have me on air, and I was really there in my capacity as an Aston Villa supporter, the former director of the Supporters Trust, because I am one step away from some of the Israeli intelligence. They were questioning me on that, and basically they didn't accept my word on it, which, although was not authoritative in first person, I had spoken to someone who had been involved with it.
Yeah.
So they drew their sixes of one, half a dozens of the other, and I managed to get off and talk about Unai Emery.
And I think we, Johnny, can draw our own conclusions from that.
Indeed.
As you go to this match, probably the most controversial match, or one of them, certainly of my lifetime and my news career, do you think tonight is going to be a safe night? Is it going to be a difficult night? Is it going to be... What do you think it's going to be? What do you hope it is?
Peter, if they'd allowed the fans in, there would have been a bit of noise and bluster outside. The West Midlands police would have channeled a few hundred Israeli supporters back onto Witton or Aston Station, and even friendship between Villa fans and Maccabi fans would have been allowed. It would have been seen, because basically these guys, these travelling supporters, when not attacked by locals, are basically delightful company, because they think the world hates Israel, and with some justification. But when locals seem to hand out friendship to them, they give it back in spades. And that is the very sad missing ingredient from this European night of football.
Johnny, who's going to win the match tonight, do you think?
Well, I am an Aston Villa fan. Any criticism of dual loyalty doesn't belong on my doorstep, thanks very much. I've been a Villa fan for 50 years. We have the most successful manager in the history of the Europa League leading us. His name is Unai Emery. He's won it 4 times, which is quite an achievement with his Spanish club across the water. And Villa have a very good chance of winning the whole tournament, and I think they'll give Maccabi a good run around, and I think it will be a comfortable win.
Johnny, I hope you have a good time tonight, although I can honestly say I'm baffled by your last answer there, how you can be a fan of Aston Villa for 50 years when you're only 25. But thank you, Johnny. I
Giving it all away.
I hope it's safe tonight. I hope you have a good time, and perhaps we'll speak soon in regard to how it went. Johnny Gould, thank you there. Johnny Gould, presenter on this station, of course. He is someone who is a big Aston Villa fan, former director of the Aston Villa Supporters Trust as well. Whilst we debate the situation in Birmingham, I just want to remind you what Sir Keir Starmer is doing. So we have prisoners on the loose, one of whom has voluntarily handed himself back in, another sex offender on the loose. With David Lammy, he doesn't have any grip whatsoever on his own department or the prison service. And where's the Prime Minister? He's solving the environment. Where is that? Brazil, okay, at the Conference of Parties, this big international conference. So clearly when you want to deal with the environment, you want to talk to the big players, don't you? Let's say China, India, the United States. The three of them together are responsible for 50% of the carbon emissions. They're not in Brazil, but Keir Starmer is. This is him speaking at COP30.
Unity was not just international, it was there within most of our countries. There was a cross-party consensus in the United Kingdom. The only question was how fast could we go? Today, sadly, that consensus is gone, with some arguing that this isn't the time to act, and saying that tackling climate change could wait.
Well, I think we can all agree that's really, really important. Apart from, you know, football match where people might get attacked for being Jewish, or the fact that they're prisoners, you're sex offenders on the run. Maybe, just maybe, I know this is a crazy thought, but maybe the Prime Minister should be in this country dealing with the problems in this country rather than flying around the world to deal with an issue that the three biggest carbon polluters, China, India, United States, aren't even at. Becca says, I'm growing increasingly annoyed with Prince William and his silence over the team he supports and part of the FA as well. Most of the government are on a jolly in Brazil, and if there's any trouble tonight, Keir will be straight out to blame the far right, says Becca. Paul in Manchester, it is a sad day when our national sport becomes political. Zarina says these people who are dictating to the authorities, staging protests to pressure organisations to marginalise Israel should be ashamed of themselves, putting up Palestinian flags. Where is their loyalty to their British neighbours, to their country? I am appalled that I, as a taxpayer, will have to continue to pay for the security and subsequent clean-up of this unnecessary protest. I am livid. Neil is in Buckinghamshire and joins me on the line. 0344 499 1000. Neil, your thoughts on this?
Hello, Peter. How are you doing? All right?
Very well, thanks. How are you doing, Neil?
Memory serves me, when Liverpool and Everton play football, they're not allowed to play on the same day. The police don't allow it, and I'm sure it happens in Birmingham as well, when grounds are close to. I know there's 5 teams in Birmingham, but they're the big teams that aren't allowed to play on the same. Yet they're going to allow a protest march around the grounds, because it's bound to go there, which means it's going to kick off, which is what they want. And Starmer wasn't even going to COP30. He's only just recently decided to go, not long after this game was all kicked off. So wonder why. So he wants to be out of the way.
It's quite.
With it.
I mean, he may well have been going to COP30 for whatever reason, but actually, I just think it's so clear, Neil. It's so clear that we are crying out as a country in so many ways for leadership. Where is that leadership? It's in South America. And the replacement is David Lammy. I don't know about you, Neil. David Lammy, his finger on the button. That doesn't reassure me hugely.
But not being funny, no leader for the last 10 years has reassured me. The tourism is back. We need somebody like you for us to stand up and say, we need you back. Yeah. That's what we need. We need someone that's going to put their head above the parapet and say, right, go on, knock me down, but I'm standing up for this country.
Neil, I just think so many people will agree with you, and I'm certainly one of them. I really appreciate you giving me a ring. That was Neil in Buckinghamshire there. Jane says, these fools in the Labour government had 14 years to prepare. They told us before the election they were ready to go. What have they been doing since last July? Everyone has failed. They should all go. Ian says, if this march was far right, the police would have stopped it, so why hasn't it been stopped? That's Ian in Cumbria. Graham in Birmingham. I live in Birmingham. I happened to mention to you, a young Muslim in my local shop, that a friend of mine is now living in Israel. He screamed at me to get out of his shop. His hatred of Jews was scary. Mark says, I'm a police officer, and we had a brief from Prevent recently. They told us that most of their referrals are relating to extreme right-wing matters. However, when I pressed him, he admitted that most of the referrals are about kids making Nazi salutes in playgrounds, not actual right-wing terrorism. He conceded that Islamist terrorism is by far the biggest threat to the UK, and right-wing terrorism was practically non-existent. Dennis in Manchester. Good afternoon, Peter. Hi, Dennis. Thanks for your message. I enjoy watching games even if my team aren't playing, but I'm thinking long and hard about watching the game tonight, as I fear what will happen if Maccabi Tel Aviv score or even win tonight. Pitch invasions, riots, violence, and who would be to blame? A football team that has the temerity to do their job? Dennis in Manchester. Well, let's hope actually in the stadium that is very secure. And actually we're hearing earlier from Ian Austin there, Lord Austin, that it's only fans that have been there in the last year and that they have a record of that'll actually be allowed in. So hopefully that is peaceful. And I know from actually toured a couple of football grounds actually previously, and the kind of security they have, particularly in the Premier League, is second to none. Steve in East Yorkshire says, I'm not too concerned about Starmer being in Brazil for COP30. I just hope he stays there. I'm more concerned what he's signing us up for and how much more money he's going to give away. There are loads of people who want to get in on this conversation. If you're one of them, please give me a ring. We've cleared the decks. We've actually dropped guests because we want to get as many calls as possible on the air between now and 7. If you want to talk about it, I want to talk about it with you. If it matters to you, it matters to me, because this is my show, but it's your show too. 0344 499 1000. Whatever you want to say, I want to hear it. Stay with us between now and 7 o'clock here on Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now. Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the Talk TV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Just to recap that news that has come into the Talk newsroom in the last few minutes, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has been ordered to appear before congressmen in Washington DC for questioning over his links to the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. This is a letter sent to the former Duke of York today. Democratic members of the House Committee on Oversight say they believe he may have crucial information about co-conspirators and enablers of Epstein's crimes. Well, when that happens, and it should happen, and he should go, and if he doesn't, he's going to be hauled over the coals, and that would be the correct thing. That will be fascinating to see, especially given all the controversy in recent years, last 15 years really, about Jeffrey Epstein. That's Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, former Duke of York, ordered to appear before congressmen in Washington DC on Capitol Hill for questioning over his links to the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Stu in Hales Owen says, have you ever known a Prime Minister to be out of the country so much? It's a serious question. Prime Ministers travel a lot, but with Keir Starmer, I don't know what's going on. He never seems to be here. Molly says, I hope Maccabi Tel Aviv win tonight. Great show as usual, mate. Thank you, Molly. Appreciate that. Let's speak to Duncan in London, who's given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Duncan, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hi, how are you? I hope you're well.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you.
I'm from Northampton, by the way, not London.
Oh, Northampton. Okay, we'll get that sorted on our screen.
No problem. Okay, just three quick things. The game tonight, if Westminster Police can look after the Birmingham v Wolves Cup semi-final, surely they can protect 700 away fans.
Well, they took no away fans at all. They're very.
But if they did.
Yeah. Well, you would think they've got to do these matches and keep people safe, don't they, Duncan?
Yeah, of course. Right. As far as I'm aware, I'm not sure of the population of Israel, but only 8% of Israel are actually truly Semitic. So when the press goes on about like anti-Semitic, this doesn't know
most people in Israel, of course, are Jewish, and being anti-Semitic is being against Jews, certainly, and we know that form of racism exists far too much in our society. The Prof has been in touch on Twitter. He says, I'm not a supporter of Aston Villa, Peter, but please make it 100% clear this decision has nothing to do with them. I know you're not a football fan, but please say a happy 150th birthday to my team, Blackburn Rovers. Happy to do that. Football is important. Of course it is. It brings people together, although it is dividing people at the moment. The game of the masses, not to be hijacked by idiots and politicians, says the Prof. So yes, very happy to say that it was the security advisory group that made that decision. David is in Birmingham and has given me a ring about all of this. David, you're very welcome. What would you like to say?
Thank you for taking my call, Peter. This has got nothing whatsoever to do with football. I would even argue it's not really got a lot to do with anti-Semitism. It is to do with votes. It is to do with Yaqub Khan maintaining the votes of the Muslim population.
Do you mean Ayub Khan, the local MP?
Yes, the independent MP,
yeah.
Who, incidentally, he should get the bill for this police presence. Not just is it about his votes in as MP for Ferry Bar and Aston, it is about the Labour vote. Just down the road, we've got our Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood. The only chance Labour have got of clinging to power, in fact, they've got no chance. The only chance they've got of clinging to any seats is by securing the Muslim vote. And this is purely a pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas protest.
Not all Muslims vote the same way, David, as we know, but I know you're talking in general terms there. It is interesting what you're saying there about Ayub Khan. In fact, Dame Penny Mordaunt, the former Defence Secretary, came on my programme a few days ago and called that person, Ayub Khan, an anti-Semite. I'm sure that's something he would deny. Let's hear from Ayub Khan, who is the MP for the area. I'll come back to you, David, but I just want to and just stay on the line if you don't mind, David, but I just want to remind people what he said when the Israeli fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv were originally banned. This is the MP for the area, Ayub Khan.
Well, excellent news for the people of Birmingham and, most importantly, the residents here in Aston. I launched a petition to oppose the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from coming to Birmingham and then into the Aston Villa Stadium. The surrounding ward of Aston is a ward that sits within my constituency, and I had many residents and businesses express concern of the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from coming into our area. Clearly, we have all witnessed the scenes in Amsterdam, the violence that was displayed by the fans the night before the match. We all watched and listened to those vile chants of hatred and racism, and so there's no space for that kind of behaviour here in Birmingham. There's certainly no space for that kind of conduct in Aston. So I'm very pleased that both the West Midlands Police and Aston Villa Football Club have now written to UEFA informing them of their decision not to allow any fans from entering Birmingham and Aston.
Well, quite a number of factual errors in there and willful disregard for the fact that Jewish people were targeted. Also, if there's no place whatsoever for racism, how have so many, and I'm not saying Ayub Khan has done this for a second, what I'm saying is there are clearly anti-Semites, that is a form of racism, that have been allowed to run amok in this area, putting up signs, saying all sorts of things, and being very, very anti-Israel and anti-Jewish in all of this. David, I wonder what you think of what you heard there from Ayub Khan, the MP, and his triumphalism over this.
Well, I've heard that clip before. The problem is, there will be hooliganism tonight, but they won't be football hooligans. They will either be Islamist hooligans, or if there's an EDL or a similar right-wing counter-protest, or even the police could be accused of hooliganism, depending on how the situation goes. This is purely about, and I will commend Ayub Khan on one thing. He is trying to represent the people of his community. However, his community is not just the pro-Palestine, the pro-Hamas, Muslim voters. There are also other faiths within that Perry Barr and Aston constituency.
How does it feel to you in Birmingham tonight, David? What does it feel like? Is it tense? Are you worried? What's running through your mind?
I sort of spoke privately with friends and family about this about a month ago, once the fixture was first announced, without all that's gone on in between. This could be a watershed in terms of Birmingham, and maybe in terms of the wider area of politics. Something very, very serious could happen tonight. And Mr. Khan, Mr. Starmer, and all those associated with the Labour Party and the Islamist community, their hands will be dirty with any blood that is spilt.
Thank you for that, David. What a sad indictment of where things are, and I can totally understand where David's coming from in all of this. Leslie says, if this match goes horribly wrong tonight, and let's hope it doesn't, let's hope it's peaceful, let's hope everything goes without a hitch. Leslie says, if this match goes horribly wrong tonight and Starmer is grandstanding abroad again, who's in charge, please? Not Calamity Lamy. Yeah, he's in charge. He's the Deputy Prime Minister. He is in charge. He is in charge of our country right now, Leslie. Gillian from Warwickshire says, great show as always, Peter. Thank you, Gillian. Where is Starmer when we have all these horrendous problems in the country at the moment? Oh yes, he's scuttled off to COP, of course. Anywhere but here, Keir. And where is that support for the Jewish community he promised? I feel desperately sorry for Jewish people and the way they're being treated. And thank you for your compliment there at the end of your message, Gillian. I better not read it out, otherwise my head will explode. Rachel says, really good show this afternoon, thank you. I went to university in Birmingham in the late 90s and loved it there. As a Christian, I'm very sad and gravely concerned about what is going on tonight. You're one of the very few stations discussing this openly and fairly. Well, thank you, Rachel, and I want to hear from all perspectives. We heard loads of really interesting perspectives, actually, things I definitely haven't thought about before, and I love this job because people make me think differently and in different ways and going down different avenues. Every call is different and every point is slightly different as well. So please do keep the calls coming in. We'll do as many of them as we can between now and 7 o'clock. 0344 499 1000. Thank you. Just on the news on Andrew Mountbatten Windsor as well. He's been ordered to appear before congressmen in Washington DC for questioning over his links to the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Mary in County Down says it is a stupid, opportunistic and far-fetched letter to Andrew from the House Committee and will almost certainly be ignored. Well, we'll bring you the latest on all of that. We're also going to talk about the BBC in a second, because we have, again, anti-Semitism an issue there, I'm afraid. There's been a really, really interesting series of reports in the Daily Telegraph last week based on a 19-page dossier from an advisor to the BBC saying that they doctored a clip on Trump to make it look as if he was inciting people, that they have a real problem with anti-Israel bias and anti-Semitism, and the fact that trans issues are the next thing, that its own coverage has been censored by its own reporters. Very, very strong allegations. They were brought to the head of BBC News, the chief executive, a woman called Deborah Turness, and to the chairman of the BBC, Sir Samir Shah. They ignored it. These are big, big problems for the BBC, and they just keep getting bigger, especially as Martine Croxall, who's one of their news presenters, broke the rules, she has been told, over a facial expression. I'm someone who has a really bad poker face, so I can sympathise. She, on her auto cue in front of her, she was reading the news on the BBC News channel, and it said pregnant people, and she changed it to women, which is factually correct. We'll have a look at that. We'll go through all those issues. Rebecca Ryan, campaign director at Defund the BBC, is coming up next. I want your views on that too, as well as what's happening in Birmingham. 0344 499 1000.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
More breaking news now on Talk, and the Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, has said she has been found to have breached the governance code on public appointments in choosing David Cogan as chair of the Independent Football Regulator. She failed to declare he had donated to her leadership campaign, and then she appointed him as chairman of the Independent Football Regulator. That's Lisa Nandy, the Culture Secretary, obviously culture, media and sport, all part of her department. She's been found to have breached the governance code on public appointments in choosing David Cogan as chairman of the Independent Football Regulator, including failing to declare he donated to her leadership campaign. So we've got a Culture Secretary who's been found to be in breach of a governance code on a public appointment. We've got a Justice Secretary and Deputy Prime Minister who's losing prisoners and saying, oh, we're going to have a meeting and, you know, I'm going to put on my stern face. He's also lying to Parliament, in my view, or at least, at the very least, withholding the full truth from Parliament. You've got health secretaries over a barrel with the junior doctors saying they want another 30% pay rise. And where's the Prime Minister again? The man with his finger on the button, the person who's totally in control. Where is he again? Oh yeah, he's in Brazil. That's right. Let's just remind ourselves what Keir Starmer's been up to.
This unity was not just international, it was there within most of our countries. There was a cross-party consensus in the United Kingdom. The only question...
Do you know what? That's enough. That's actually enough of Keir Starmer. Another meaningless, pointless speech that doesn't make any difference to anything. He's flown halfway around the world to go to a conference in Brazil about pollution and climate change that doesn't have China, India or the United States there. His presence is pointless. Nothing will change as a result of him being there. It's just, where is the leadership? Where is the leadership? Well, it's not coming from David Lammy, let me tell you that, the celebrity mastermind himself. Right then, let's talk about the BBC, another organisation in crisis. There's a 19-page dossier that has been reported all week, exclusive in the Telegraph, that is coming out. There have been all sorts of major problems that it has identified. One we talked about the other day, which was that they doctored a clip from Donald Trump to change the meaning in a panorama. I was on another station earlier today talking about this, and I promise you one of the guests said overall the panorama was fair. Overall the panorama was fair. Overall Mrs Lincoln probably had quite a nice evening at the theatre, just until the bit where, you know, John Wilkes Booth shot her husband. Rebecca Ryan is campaign director at Defund the BBC, and the latest element of this that I want to talk to Rebecca about in just a second is the trans row in all of this, the allegation in this dossier that trans coverage in the BBC is not done properly. In fact, there is an allegation that the corporation's news, the unit that deals with these issues, the LGBT desk, unsurprisingly they have one, has been captured by a small group of people promoting, guess what, a pro-trans agenda and keeping other perspectives off air. The allegation is that this has led to a constant drip feed of one-sided stories celebrating the trans experience without adequate balance or objectivity. The leaked internal BBC memo concludes. It said it reflected a cultural problem across the BBC, which treats issues of gender and sexuality as a celebration of British diversity, rather than a complex and contentious subject. This is Gordon Rayner from The Telegraph. He's been writing all these stories. He's their associate editor. He sets all this out. Let's hear from him.
This internal BBC memo accuses the broadcaster of censoring its stories about the trans debate. In it, one of the BBC's own independent advisors repeatedly warns that the broadcaster is exhibiting serious and systemic problems. But in the case of the trans issue, it's not just how the content is reported or edited or framed. Instead, it's what audiences don't see that reveals the one-sided nature of their coverage. Now, this dossier describes in damning terms allegations that the BBC's specialist LGBTQ desk had been, quote, captured by a small group of people promoting the Stonewall view of the debate and keeping other perspectives off air.
Gordon Rayner there from The Telegraph. Well, in another development today, Martine Croxall, she is a BBC presenter, or news presenter, has been told that she broke rules over this clip.
London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine has released research which says that nearly 600 heat-related deaths are expected in the UK. Malcolm Mystery, who is involved in the research, says that the aged, pregnant people, women, and those with pre-existing health conditions need to take precautions.
So because she slightly rolled her eyes there, wouldn't strike me as a full eye roll, and because she corrected pregnant people to women, which is factual, she's been censured because of that. You could not make this stuff up. You could not make this stuff up. Meanwhile, you and I, most of you out there, but not all of you, are paying the licence fee for this nonsense. Rebecca Ryan is campaign director at Defund the BBC. Rebecca, where do we even start?
I just think this news today that they have reprimanded Maxine in the middle of this, as you say, this complete scandal they're going through with this dossier with these 9 key points, for them to then sort of it to come out that they've reprimanded her, when it's been clear since the High Court finding that that single sex spaces have to be honoured and all of that kind of thing. The BBC clearly hasn't woken up to this yet, and as it says there in the dossier about the whole sort of the desk of the LGBTQ alphabet desk has been captured by a particular subsection of that. I mean that just goes on for how the debate has been captured amongst the BBC for the last 10 years. I imagine it sort of gradually got worse and worse, but it's simply stating that pregnant women, and for that to be somehow reprimandable is outrageous. Over 50% of the population are women. A lot of them have been pregnant and gone through that process, and it's not the easiest approach. It's not the easiest thing to be pregnant and give birth. They could be called breastfeeding, chest feeders. Though these things are taken away from women in the name of appeasing some people who want to identify into being women. Well, it's not for them to say, and it's not to take those words and that meaning away from women. And for the BBC now to be doubling down on this is just really badly timed when they are. They've got huge questions to answer on the rest of this dossier.
You might have seen me stifling a laugh a second ago there, Rebecca, not at anything you said, but something I just reread here from earlier. I highlighted this earlier when I was preparing for the programme. The presenter changed her script instead to say women, and the BBC's editorial complaints unit said it considered her facial expression to express a controversial view about trans people. I mean, what are these people on? It is just nonsense. And then another story. Right, when you hear this? Right, the BBC forced to withdraw thoroughly wrong racism allegations. This involved BBC Verify, the flagship fact-checking unit. There are literally dozens of people who work for this. BBC audiences this is part of the memo as well, BBC audiences were encouraged to believe Britain's major insurers were intentionally or unintentionally racist and charging high prices to customers based on their ethnicity. When these problems were raised with BBC executives, the reference to ethnic penalty was removed, but the report was so thoroughly wrong that later a stricter view was taken and the entire report was taken down. In September 2024, the article was replaced with a statement which read, BBC News has removed an article from a website about car insurance premiums as it did not meet our normal editorial standards. Another story about structural racism in the workplace also fell apart under scrutiny because reporters had accepted without question a report by the Trades Union Congress, according to the memo. Everybody has an agenda. Everybody's sending you a press release. They all want something out of it. Question it. That's what you're meant to do. Have critical thinking as journalists. That's what I was taught when I worked at the BBC, and I worked with some very, very good people. A spokesman for the BBC says, while we don't comment on leaked documents, when the BBC receives feedback, it takes it seriously and considers it carefully. But it doesn't. And that's the point. It doesn't receive feedback that it takes seriously and considers carefully, because Michael Prescott, who wrote that memo, what he did was he went to Deborah Turness, who is the chief executive of BBC News, he went to the chairman of the BBC, two of the most senior people in the entire organisation, and they didn't take it seriously and they didn't consider it carefully, and that's why we now know about it. He tried to do the right thing, then it came out, and the fact is that the BBC always says we'll learn lessons about this. They never learn lessons. They never change. The corporation, the culture of cover-up continues. Rebecca.
Absolutely, and this is the problem with the BBC, is that it's more interested in protecting the licence fee and protecting its own future, its own sort of cushy future where it doesn't have to be accountable to people, than it is in actually making change. And if it listened to these complaints and didn't whitewash all of these, this scandal after scandal that we've seen from the BBC, if it actually made some changes, then people might actually want to watch it. But as we're seeing, sort of hundreds of thousands of households per year are deciding, I don't want to fund this anymore. You know, they clearly have this woke agenda that they're trying to push forward, and they're hammering it down people's throats in every kind of format that they can. And what we're seeing here in this dossier is just further and further examples of that. And as you say, somebody who was appointed to be a sort of on an executive board to discuss these matters felt strongly enough that he wasn't being listened to, that he's had to do this, he's had to make it public. And it's just actually shocking to see the level of arrogance from BBC's bosses there, that they've just thought, oh, you know what, we're not even going to listen to him. It's just outrageous.
Rebecca, thank you for your contribution this evening. I will tell you that I am absolutely watching one BBC programme, and it's actually quite pertinent to our discussion. Tonight at 9 o'clock, I will be watching The Traitors. Stay with us here on Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now. Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Well, thank you to everybody who is getting in touch, including Jason in the Lake District, who is been in touch about Lisa Nandy and all the problems she's having. He believes that she's another example of being not fit for office. Sir Keith still laser focused on delivering change. The whole lot of them are an utter embarrassment and completely out of their depth. Just how much worse is it going to get? Because until something finally happens. The farce in Birmingham this evening is a result of weak leadership. We are crying out for leadership with a spine. Ian in Southport says, is this Lisa Nandy situation bordering on corruption? We'll bring you the latest on all of that before 7 as well. Stephen Millings in Belfast says, Stommer's promise for abandoning Sleaze working out well. Lisa in Birmingham says, I live 5 minutes away from the Villa ground. I'm disgusted by the behaviour of these Islamists. To see what is happening in my home city is so upsetting. I no longer feel safe here. I love my Jewish friends. To see the blatant anti-Semitism being so openly bandied around is terrifying, says Lisa. We'll talk more about that with a couple of callers, but I want to play a couple of voice notes first. Firstly, from Stanley, who's in Birmingham.
I ain't a Villa fan, but I'll tell you what, I stand tall with a lot of the Villa fans because they're using football as a political and a sectarian thing to play with. You know, that Yacoub, he's been harping on for weeks, basically, on TikTok and whatever. And I think, personally, basically inciting people to get down there. You know, he's showing me on TikToks with his baseball bat how to get away with it. You know, Premier League teams have gone back to taking the knee of a weekend and for racism. And plain sight tonight is racism against basically Jews. I'm totally ashamed, mate, I'll be honest with you. And I just fear for tonight, I do.
Thank you, Stanley, for that. Just to say, I'm sure that Ayub Khan and the lawyer who Alex Phillips spoke to earlier on would absolutely deny that they incited anything, I'm sure. But Stanley, you are entitled to your opinion. Of course, Ken in Lancashire has been in touch with the voice note as well.
People keep saying on the station that politics and football shouldn't be brought together. This is nothing to do with politics. This is pure anti-Semitism, which is not politics. It's a hatred for a certain group of people. That is not politics. And how can that be allowed to happen in our country?
Ken, that is a really good point. Another brilliant point that I hadn't properly considered. You're really making me think this evening, Ken, and many, many other people. No doubt there'll be some common sense coming out from Howard and from Pete. I'll start with Howard, who is in Essex. You're very welcome to the programme. 0344 499 1000 is the number Howard has rung. What would you like to say?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. The first thing is I'm one of those rare breeds of Aston Villa fans and who's Jewish. Unfortunately, I can't get to the match tonight. I'd have loved to have gone. But I'm hoping everything's going to go off really well.
As we all are, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to give a little bit of history on Aston Villa because we've had something happen to us in 1939, and I don't know if many of your listeners know, but back in 1939, Aston Villa were one of the most well-known clubs in the world, and we were invited to tour Germany, and this was
pre-Second World War, obviously. Yeah.
That's right, and we played the German the national team a few days after England national team played them. The English national team, they were under pressure from the Home Office and the FA to do the Nazi salute, and they backed down. When Aston Villa played them, they did not. They refused.
Yeah. Interesting.
It really is. And actually, a lot of people don't realise this, but Villa actually got booed during the game.
Right.
And the reason they got booed wasn't because they didn't do the Nazi salute, but because they were playing the offside plan, and it worked, and we beat them because of that. I also want to thank a couple of the recent callers I just heard, especially the last guy. As a Jewish person, thank you so much for those kind words. It means a lot to me, and it means so much to the Jewish community. This is all about blatant anti-Semitism. They just don't like Jewish people. They hate Israel. And the thought that it is genocide is absolutely ridiculous, because why don't they call out any other countries?
Well, it's firstly factually wrong, and secondly, as I was talking about on my weekend show, there is an actual genocide going on in Sudan. How many of these people care about that and march in the streets about that? Howard, thanks for your thoughts. I really appreciate them, and I wish you well, and I wish Aston Villa well as well for this evening. Pete's in Durham, and I want to get him on the air before the news at 6 o'clock. Just a couple of minutes, Pete, but tell us your thoughts.
Hi, Pete. Good game. Totally
behind every one of your callers who's called in earlier on.
Good man.
It's absolutely ridiculous what's happening about a football game. Football and religion shouldn't be together. Football brings religion together. When I was in the military for 25 years, I've been to them halls where they're all coming from on the boats, and tonight is just like totally. It's really, really upset me. It's like a former soldier representing my country, with all religions fighting against the same thing, right? These are anti-Semitic protesters outside there now, kicking off.
It is just absolutely dreadful what's happening, Pete, and let's hope it remains peaceful. You're clearly, I can hear it in your voice, you're clearly very sad and upset about this, as so many people are, Pete.
Well, Pete, I swear down, right, I've been to these places, right, they've got no morals, right, and that so-called lawyer, solicitor, I swear down, tonight I hope it stays peaceful.
Yeah,
I don't think it will.
Let's hope so, Pete. We've got to go to the news, but listen, thanks for your call. I really appreciate it. That's Pete in Durham there. We'll be live in Birmingham in just a few minutes' time after the news. Nick Ellerby is standing by for us. We'll talk to other people who have thoughts on this. Nicole Lampert, the indefatigable campaigner against anti-Semitism. We'll talk as well about council spending £60,000 tearing down flags, including Union Jacks in the next hour, and find out how the Sun is covering all of this tomorrow with John Lucas from their news desk. And what I want to hear from you, 0344 499 1000. I will talk to you very soon here on Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
This is Talk. I'm Peter Cardwell. Thank you for your company this Thursday evening. It's just gone 6 o'clock and some breaking news for you in that the Shirley Valentine actress Pauline Collins has died peacefully aged 85 in her London care home, surrounded by her family. She had Parkinson's disease for several years. She also starred in the BBC drama The Ambassador. I remember her from that, but Shirley Valentine is the thing she'll be known for the best. That's Pauline Collins, the actress. She's died peacefully aged 85 in London. We're talking about what's happening in Birmingham as well. We'll go live there in a second because the match between Maccabi Tel Aviv and Aston Villa is just 2 hours away. We have live footage there on the screen if you're watching. There are many pro-Palestinian flags there at the police line. We're going to speak to our reporter there, Nick Ellerby, in just a minute or two. We'll also speak to the anti-Semitism person who's against it, obviously, campaigner against it, Nicole Lambert, very soon as well. We'll talk about councils spending £60,000 tearing down flags, including Union Jacks and St George's crosses. But as we can see on the screen there, apparently it's fine to have Palestinian flags, and find out what the Sun is doing when it's covering this story and many others tomorrow. I've got almost a full board full of calls here, but there's still room for more. We'll take as many of them as we can. We'll take them in every section between now and 7 o'clock. I'm going to get as many people on the air as possible. You want to talk about this and I want to talk about it too. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us here on Talk. Well, let's go live now to Birmingham. Our reporter Nick Ellerby is there. And Nick, of course, we can see what has been happening there. Clearly, there are quite a number of protesters who are already coming to those police lines. All peaceful so far? Just bring us up to date with what's happening.
Yeah, pretty peaceful, Peter. Not as many people as potentially we expected. It's quite loud down here. I've moved a bit closer to the protest, which is right underneath the stadium, the Trinity Road stand of the Villa Park Stadium. I can see probably, I'd say maybe 300 or so at the moment. Lots of Palestine flags, lots of shouts of Free Palestine and Stop the Genocide. A number of banners there outside the tents there, one reading Red Card for Israel, Game Over Israel, another Sanction Israel now, Kick Israel out of FIFA, which is probably the big message I'm hearing on the PA system at this protest. They want Israel to be kicked out of international sports competitions. They want it out of FIFA and UEFA as well. And also criticism of the BBC and allegations that they're covering up crimes, and also calls for the UK not to supply Israel with arms. And then in terms of the counter-protest, we're not quite sure exactly what's going on at the moment. Potentially over the other side of the stadium there could be a pro-Israel march in solidarity with the people of Israel, also people holding placards in support of British Jews as well. The match doesn't kick off till 8 o'clock. There's lots of people, so I can see stadium staff just peering over the banisters, trying to get a look at what's going on. But the police presence here is absolutely huge. We're just on the edge of the park, Aston Park, which sort of backs onto the stadium, and there are police actually going into the line of trees with cameras and lights, just filming. I'm not sure if they've spotted anything going on. The only kind of untoward situation I've seen was one man shouting at some protesters here, and he was being moved on by the police. But apart from that, all very peaceful so far, Peter.
And as the match obviously goes ahead at 8 o'clock, there will be no Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters there, no away fans. Is there any sign of any Israelis actually there, or any Maccabi Tel Aviv fans at all? There are obviously demonstrators and counter-demonstrators, but is there anybody who is identifiably a Maccabi Tel Aviv fan there?
No, it's still quite early, Peter, but no, not that I've seen at all. Tommy Robinson, the founder of the English Defence League, has said he would attend the game wearing a Maccabi Tel Aviv shirt, but I've not seen any evidence of any Maccabi fans here. I mean, the big question, I guess, for Maccabi Tel Aviv, just a couple of very loud quad bikes going past at the moment. One guy with his face covered on the back of the quad bike. What we do know is that Maccabi have 2 more away games in this Europa League competition in December and January. They go to Stuttgart in December and they go to Freiburg in Germany in January. So it will be interesting to see what happens around those games as well.
Nick, thank you. That's Nick Ellerby there in Birmingham. He will continue to report for us throughout the evening. Of course, Kevin O'Sullivan is here on the other side of the 7 o'clock news right through until 10 o'clock. That match starts at 8 o'clock. We will see what happens. And interestingly, Sky News is reporting that police banned Maccabi Tel Aviv fans due to what they say are significant levels of hooliganism in the fan base, jeopardising safety around the match, rather than threats to visiting Israelis. I've been asking this question for weeks and weeks and weeks, and finally we have an answer from West Midlands Police. It's the first time West Midlands Police Chief has publicly explained the intelligence behind the decision. The Home Affairs Committee in Parliament has been asking about this for ages as well. Excluding Israeli fans was portrayed by the government as anti-Semitic, turning part of Birmingham into a no-go zone. But Chief Superintendent Tom Joyce has said, we are simply trying to make decisions based on community safety, driven by the intelligence that was available to us in our assessment of the risk that was coming from admitting travelling fans. I'm aware there's a lot of commentary around the threat to the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans being the reason for the decision. To be clear, that was not the primary driver. That was a consideration. Well, I find that very interesting. He also says we have intelligence and information that says there is a section of Maccabi fans, not all Maccabi fans, but a section who engage in quite significant levels of hooliganism. Well, I wonder if the level of hooliganism they would have engaged with, which is not something I would ever excuse, not something I would ever condone, I do wonder whether the police would have had a bigger fight on their hands, or at least a bigger security situation on their hands, had Maccabi Tel Aviv fans in general been admitted tonight, versus the scenes that we can see, including on the screen right now, about stop starving Gaza and all sorts of other, defund this, that and the other, and stop the genocide. It wasn't a genocide factually. It isn't a genocide factually. And these people do not care about actual genocides, including in Sudan, which we've reported on my programmes previously. They don't care about it. Do you know why? Because they hate Israel. And in their view, Israel can never do the right thing. And even if you play football for an Israeli football team, you're a bad person and you shouldn't be allowed into this country. That is what goes through the minds of many of those protesters. I want to talk to Nicole Lampert now, who's a journalist and indefatigable campaigner against anti-Semitism. She's a hero of mine. Nicole, thank you for joining me on the programme this evening. What do you make, first of all, of what Chief Superintendent Tom Joyce has said? He says we're simply trying to make decisions based on community safety, and he says excluding Israeli fans is actually the security driver for all of this.
I think he's lying. Am I allowed to say that? I don't know. I don't think that's true.
You just have. It is an honestly expressed opinion, and I've asked you for your opinion and you've given it. So yes, you are allowed to say that.
I don't think that's the truth. I really don't. No one else has banned Maccabi Tel Aviv fans for hooliganism. The only problems they've had is when they were in Amsterdam, and as we know, that was because there was pre-arranged Jew hunt from taxi drivers, from Uber drivers in Amsterdam, who were deliberately going after them. That's not to say there isn't a hooligan element. There is in most football teams. The Israeli police and security service presumably could have kept a tight lid on that. But as we know, from the moment the match was announced, then there were people within Birmingham who were desperate to get it closed down. So the idea this is about the Israeli fans is outrageous, to be honest. It's completely outrageous.
There was a clear campaign to get them banned. That campaign was generally from the local MP, Ayub Khan. We're just going to play a clip from him now. When this all went through, when this all happened, and when it was clear that the fans were to be originally banned, this is what he said on social media.
Well, excellent news for the people of Birmingham and, most importantly, the residents here in Aston. I launched a petition to oppose the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from coming to Birmingham and then into the Aston Villa Stadium. The surrounding ward of Aston is a ward that sits within my constituency, and I had many residents and businesses express concern of the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from coming into our area. Clearly, we have all witnessed the scenes in Amsterdam, the violence that was displayed by the fans the night before the match. We all watched and listened to those vile chants of hatred and racism, and so there's no space for that kind of behaviour here in Birmingham. There's certainly no space for that kind of conduct in Aston. So I'm very pleased that both the West Midlands Police and Aston Villa Football Club have now written to UEFA informing them of their decision not to allow any fans from entering Birmingham and Aston.
Well, there are just so many aspects of that particular broadcast he put on social media. The willful ignorance, the willful ignoring of, as you put it correctly, and what was expressed as a Jew hunt in Amsterdam with Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. There were, of course, hooligans there, and I'm not condoning that, and neither are you or would you, Nicole. But the fact is that Ayub Khan has a very selective view of what happened and why he believes Maccabi Tel Aviv fans had to be banned. In fact, I asked Dame Penny Mordaunt about this a few days ago in my programme. She called him an anti-Semite. He would deny that, just as I'm sure when you suggested that the Chief Superintendent, Tom Joyce, was a liar, he would deny that as well, although we have a message already coming in from Elisa in Chelmsford saying, I agree with Nicole, I think the police chief is lying, and you're more than entitled to your view on that. Nicole, where do we even go from here? We have to get through tonight, first of all, but we can see it on the screen right now, and it is absolutely no shock to us that there are loads of, so far peaceful, people with Palestinian flags holding up ludicrous lines about a genocide in Gaza, people who've put up all sorts of messages about Zionists not welcome, arrest Israelis, all this kind of stuff.
So I've got some friends going up. They are British Jews. One of them, Michael Marlowe, his son was killed at the Nova Festival. He's going up there. There's a group of them, about 20 of them that I know of. And they're going as Brits, and they're not going in. They're just going to say there should be no place in Britain that we are not allowed to go as Zionists, as British Jews. Then I also understand that there is going to be, a call at least for some, I'm not sure if they're far right or what they are, but British, nothing to do with Maccabi Tel Aviv, but some associates of Tommy Robinson that are also expected to go. So that you've got kind of three groups there. And it feels to me like this is almost like the Israeli situation is the catalyst for what's going on in our country. There's kind of these bubbling under themes of what's going on in terms of the power of Islamism, the fact that we now have 4 MPs for Gaza in the House of Commons, and they are flexing their power, and in return you have white nationalists who are also flexing their power. And it feels to me like this is really the start of a new time, and perhaps we saw it at the start, in the summer riots last year, but I think we're seeing it more and more. That this stuff cannot be kept under control anymore. Yeah. And that really the Jews, we're just the front line, and this is just the excuse. It's not really anything to do with Israel or with Jews. It's to do with what's going on in our country. Yeah,
I think I agree with all of that, as I usually do with you, Nicole. Just a final thought on Marks and Spencer's, because they have a Christmas ad with Dawn French. We know, of course, that she appeared to minimise what happened on the 7th of October. I don't think they should have used her. They could have used any other well-known actor or actress to front, or even people who weren't well-known actors or actresses to front their Christmas campaign. Let's just have a quick look at a clip of the advert with Dawn French.
Driving home for Christmas, yeah. I can't wait to see. Oh, how long have we been here? Oh, I know. Ooh, hang on, Frenchie. And...
I mean, all sort of standard Christmas ad fare, but Dawn French being used, well, there'll be many people who will not be using Marks and Spencer's as a result, I would imagine.
It feels like a slap in the face to the Jewish community, to be honest. Marks and Spencer's is one of many companies started by British Jews. Yep. Tesco's another. And for them to do this to the Jewish community, Dawn did apologise, but it does feel, it kind of hurts, because there are millions of other people that you could use in your advert. Why would you use this person knowing the hurt it would cause? That's all I really want to say, because it just feels really painful.
Yeah. Nicole, as always, thank you. Nicole Lambert there, the journalist, thank you for joining us on Talk. David's been in touch, says, simple statement from me, from David in London. For the first time in my nearly 65 years, I can honestly say I'm ashamed of my country. Our government has lost control of its cities. Another person says, let's hope the police treat everyone the same as they do at all football matches with brutal force. I doubt it. David in Wiltshire says, keep politics out of football. What has happened to Birmingham? It is so sad. Dave is in London and has given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. What would you like to say, Dave?
Yeah, hi Peter.
Hi there.
Great show. Sad to see the anti-Semite in chief, Dawn French, has been picked up by M&S. So
I'm sure she would deny being an anti-Semite, but you're entitled to your opinion, Dave.
Yeah, well, that's ticking my box for M&S for the Christmas. I'll stick with John Lewis. So your reporter's in the wrong part of town, mate. There are full-scale riots going on around the ground further out, with hundreds of... you've only got to go on to the other news. 2C TV, Dan Wootton, sorry to talk about them, but they're already reporting on it. There's loads of fireworks being shot at riot police now. And so I think your reporter's in the wrong part of town. Okay. If you think there's nothing going on now, what I wanted to say briefly...
Okay, I haven't seen any of that, I must say, Dave, and neither of our producers, but if you've seen it, that's fair enough. What else would you like to say?
So Mr. Akub now has a problem. He wanted the fans banned. That was his objective. The fans have been banned. They've accepted the ban. The West Midlands Police, although they keep changing their mind, they wanted a ban. The ban has happened. There are no Maccabi fans coming. Now, later on tonight, if what's going on in those back streets keeps going on, there's going to be burnings, lootings, and goodness knows what else. But Mr. Yaqub, he got what he wanted. He didn't ask for the game to be cancelled, which he should have done. So anything now is on him.
Well, I don't think we can. I don't think we can put the actions of others on him necessarily, and I'm sure he would want to disassociate himself from those comments, Dave. But listen, we want to be careful what we say, and we've got to stay on the right side of the law. Just in terms of the full-scale rioting that you actually refer to there, I haven't seen any of that footage, and you talk about those other news outlets. I just haven't seen that, and if it's there, fair enough. People want to send it to me of things that have happened already by 6:20. That's fine. I'm happy to broadcast that, but we haven't seen it in this newsroom. Sarah in West Sussex says, watching the protest in Birmingham, noted stop starving Gaza. There was no famine or starvation. All footage since the so-called ceasefire show Palestinians in good health and in clean clothes. That said, where are the banners urging Hamas to lay down their arms and return the remains of the now 6 hostages? Sadly, it is obvious what is going on here, says Sarah in West Sussex. And as I said, there are many different views that are coming into the Talk newsroom and on the screen in front of me. This is a slightly different one, says Chris from Birmingham. He says, I reckon the spirit of Ozzy Osbourne will rise above Villa Park and send shivers through the flock. An interesting view, not one I'm sure I necessarily agree with, but we will return to this, of course. Get your views on the air, 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now. Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
So Dave was mentioning there just before the break about footage he had seen in two different outlets, Dan Wooten and Mayor Tussi's channels, in regard to what he said was a full-scale riot. We've looked into this and I'm fairly sure it's referring to what happened last night, not what's happened tonight. Dave may think this is wrong. I think this is probably what happened. I don't know for sure, but certainly last night there were clashes with police in Birmingham. 4 teenagers were among 21 people arrested after police and members of the public were attacked with fireworks in Birmingham. As far as we know, that hasn't happened at all tonight so far as we sit here at 25 minutes past 6 on Thursday evening. So I think Dave's wrong in regard to tonight. I think what he was referencing from those two news outlets was what had happened last night. So far, I don't think that has happened. So I think our reporter, Nick Ellerby, isn't in the wrong part of town, actually. It's an easy mistake to make. I'm not criticising Dave at all, but I think he has probably made a mistake in that regard. Happy to be corrected on any of that. If anybody has any footage of things that are happening in Birmingham that we're not reporting, please send it in. You can send it to us on WhatsApp, 0344 499 1000. Carol says they should have played behind closed doors. It angers me so much that they're allowed to fly that flag. Great show, Peter. And what about the players of Maccabi Tel Aviv tonight? How much verbal abuse will they get on the pitch from the crowd? Well, just speaking about those flags, there are councils that are spending £60,000 tearing down flags, including the Union Jack and St George's crosses. Henry Bolton is with us. He's an international border control expert, Social Democratic Party spokesman for Foreign Affairs, Defence and Security. This is Henry. Councils across Britain spending more than £60,000 tearing down flags, including Union flags and St George's crosses. The wave of removals follows a surge of grassroots activism under the Raise the Colours campaign. A Freedom of Information request sent to 383 councils revealed that 36 local authorities spent £61,770 on removing flags. I wonder if they spent anything near that amount of money removing, for example, foreign flags, like the Palestinian flag. Henry, what do you make of this?
Yeah, Peter, you've just hit the point there, really, haven't you? That it is two-tier, once again, because we don't hear of the Palestinian flags or any other national flags of other countries being taken down. But I think there are two things I would say, Peter, being entirely objective about this. One is that if flags are in some way obstructing street furniture, signage or anything of that sort, then, or they're near roads but are not well fixed, then there is perhaps a reason for taking these down. And I'll come on to the other side of the coin in a moment. So, you know, and councils have a responsibility to ensure that the highway and people using it aren't endangered by it. And I think we would all understand that. And even if we sort of knew we were sort of people putting flags up were breaking the rules.
Yeah, but since when is putting a flag up endangered anybody?
Right. Well, I'm just putting that out there. Sure. On the other hand, I mean, here in Kent, not to be confused with Kent County Council, but Medway Council have said that they're doing this as well. But where it goes fundamentally wrong, in my view, and this is why there is the anger, why there's the frustration, and why indeed things potentially could spill out in Birmingham tonight and so on, is because people are not being listened to and they are being condemned when they do when they do express legitimate concern, which is really what these flags are about. It's a cry for people to listen. And I say that because Medway Council have said that one of the reasons that they're taking the flags down is because the Union Jack and the St George's Cross have been hijacked to create divisiveness and incite hatred. Well, that is fundamentally in itself divisive. It is time these politicians, whether they are councils or whether they are national politicians, start listening to people who have legitimate complaints and grievances and concerns and worries. When the Unite the Kingdom march was on in London, I talked to a number of people who were participating in that march that evening in a pub in Westminster. And there were some guys there from Ammanford in South Wales, an area, I don't know whether you know it.
Nope.
I happen to know it a bit, but it used to be a mining town, and since the mines closed, it has been totally neglected. Children don't bother going to school. Because there is no aspiration. There's no aspiration because there's no jobs, because they are in the back end of nowhere. They are being forgotten, and they are saying, "Hey, we are out here." So I spoke to these guys from Ammanford and say, "Look, this is not about Tommy Robinson. This is not about Nigel Farage. We don't care who the government is, but what we do care about is that we're being totally and utterly ignored, where we've got people being brought into hotels in our area when they're from abroad. They're getting things that our own children are not getting, and they are angry. And it is time people listened. Now, it is no good pulling down flags and implying or specifically stating that the people who put them up are being divisive. The divisiveness comes from the people who have actually created this situation in the first place. And now they're spending taxpayers and council taxpayers' money on taking them down. There's a fundamental problem here, and politicians need to recognise it and address it, not sort of brush it off as some sort of bigoted or divisive attitude that's putting these flags up. It's not. It's a cry for help.
Henry, thank you. Henry Bolton there, international border control expert, Social Democratic Party spokesman for Foreign Affairs, Defence and Security. What do you think about that? 0344 499 1000. We'll find out what's in the Sun in just a second. Someone from the news desk, John Lucas, the night news editor, is coming to tell us all about Prince Andrew as well. Former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, as his name now is. That's their top story. No doubt they'll be out in force in Birmingham as well, covering that story too. We'll talk to John in just a second, and we'll get your views right up until 7 o'clock when Kevin takes over. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Well, lots to discuss in regard to Birmingham. Continue to let me know your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. All perspectives will be covered and have been covered and will continue to be between now and 7. I'm sure Kevin O'Sullivan will be covering it as well. He'll be talking, I'm sure, to Nick Ellerby, our reporter up in Birmingham. In the meantime, let's find out what's in the Sun tomorrow. John Lucas is here from the news desk. He's the night news editor. Great to have you in the studio, John.
Evening.
Tell us about this breaking news about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, the Andrew formerly known as Prince, ordered to appear before Congress.
That's right, yeah, breaking news this evening, and I've got to always just keep remembering not to say Prince Andrew.
Yes.
Got to say it's just Mr. Windsor now. Andrew
I sometimes say Prince Charles when it's King Charles.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, it's muscle memory, isn't it?
Yeah.
But anyway, Mr. Windsor has been summoned by US politicians to appear at the House Committee on Oversight. So he's been ordered to turn up there, and what they want to talk to him about, obvious, is about his links to Jeffrey Epstein. They're saying, we think you could have some very important information. So he's received a letter from Robert Garcia. He's the most senior member of the committee. He says that rich and powerful men have evaded justice far too long. Former Prince Andrew, he says, now has the opportunity to come clean and provide justice for the survivors. Now, it's...
does he have to go?
He doesn't have to go. It's a bit like our select committees here.
Mm-hmm. You can refuse.
You can refuse, and I think Andrew hasn't set foot in the States for a very, very long time.
Well, he's worried about legal issues there as well, isn't he?
Absolutely worried about, you know, he wouldn't necessarily know if there's some court docket somewhere which would justify, you know, him being questioned about allegations around Epstein and other people. And it's a very bad day for Andrew anyway, because the stripping of his titles is formal today. That appeared in the Gazette, which is the sort of official publication for public life, and you know, that's a step that Charles took, and very brutal in a way, but also most people would say deserved. And it comes this day. We also had this extraordinary story about Spain's royal family. I don't know if you saw this.
I missed that.
So this is about, I didn't realise this, but King Juan Carlos, he's the exiled king of Spain, exiled for corruption and other sorts of scandals. He had, as a teenager, had been in a room with his brother, and they had been playing with a pistol as teenagers, and Juan Carlos had come out alive and his brother hadn't, and he'd been shot in the head. And it's never really been known exactly what happened, because there wasn't a proper judicial investigation into it. There have been all these different suggestions that he shot him on purpose or whatever. Anyway, Juan Carlos has written a memoir, and in it he says what happened was, we took the magazine out, we didn't realise there was one still in the chamber, fired it at the ceiling, and it ricocheted and hit him in the head and killed him. It's very sort of emotional, fascinating story which I didn't realise.
Goodness me.
But the link to Andrew here, apart from the symbolism between the brothers, is that he is in exile, as I say, and lots of people said Andrew should go into exile. And Juan Carlos actually has a home in Abu Dhabi, which is where he lives, which is only 15 miles away from this palace where Andrew could go. So I don't think it's likely that it will go to America, but he could certainly become neighbours to Juan Carlos.
Yeah. Tell me about the father of Axel Rudy-Cabana and what he has been saying today.
Yeah, so extraordinary testimony at the Southport inquiry today. We've had Axel Rudy-Cabana's mum and dad give evidence. The dad was giving evidence yesterday as well, and we heard yesterday a lot about the violence in the household and how Axel would attack particularly his dad. His dad said he's absolutely terrified of him. But it's absolutely incredible what this teenager was able to amass in terms of an arsenal. He was ordering knives, machetes, he'd ordered ingredients to make rice in at home. He was ordering, he tried to get his dad to go and fill up a jerry can of petrol. And it's shocking failure which is clear from what was said today of these parents. His dad knew full well that he'd ordered a machete.
Yeah.
He said, I could feel the package, I could feel how heavy it was. He hid it on top of a wardrobe, and his excuse was he didn't want to report it to the police because he knew that that would trigger his son's anger, and he feared himself being attacked.
Right.
But there were other things where he'd wanted to order a taxi to his old school with this jerry can of petrol, and the dad's prevented him going, but again, hasn't reported it to the police. And he knew all along that Axel Rudikubana was a ticking time bomb. And I'm sure, you know, in hindsight, and they say they're very sorry for what happened. Obviously, 3 young girls lost their lives at this Taylor Swift dance.
Murdered by this by Axel Rudikubana.
It's incredible, and they were also actively, the mum and dad, not telling social services what was happening, and very actively covering it up and denying. And look, everybody, you know, anyone who's got kids will know you do a hell of a lot for them, unending love for your children, but also, you know, it's just beggars belief that you could sense this danger that your son presents to the outside world, and do absolutely nothing about it. And it comes on the day that we've got new figures about the amount of people being referred to prevent,
and a number of
smashed all previous records, and
many younger people, many under 16s as well. We'll be talking about that on the programme as well. Tell me another story you have about Angelina Jolie. This is a strange story about a driver grabbed at a military checkpoint in Ukraine, forced to join its armed forces.
Yeah, so Angelina, she's done this before. She's gone over to Ukraine. It's about obviously raising the profile of the war, and you know, she's one of the biggest Hollywood stars in the world. So, you know, if you've got her in your corner, that does help quite a lot. She's very active in that sort of thing. She's done it her whole career. But she was over there, so she's touring the war zone, and her convoy, her car was about to go through a military checkpoint, and the troops have asked for everybody's papers, and they've spotted that her minder actually, he's a reservist. I think he's a 31-year-old reservist. They said, well, look, every male there between 30 and 65, I think, not 65, 50 or something like that, is eligible for military service, and they took him off her right there and then in the sentence camp. And this happened to our defence editor, Jerome Starkey, a couple of weeks ago. He was there. Exact same thing happened, and he tried to appeal to the higher ups because obviously he's got lots of contacts. Angelina tried to appeal to the higher ups and say, look, I
need this mentor to keep me safe.
We need him, and they're doing legitimate jobs, but they can't avoid the military service now because the situation is so desperate for Ukraine. They've had tens of thousands of troops killed, hundreds of thousands of injured and maimed, and you know, it's just a sort of a symptom of the meat grinder war that's still going on. That's got no end in sight.
I have a very good friend who texts me almost every time I use the phrase "in regard to." She's trying to get me to stop using the phrase "in regard to" on the air, and sometimes I admit I don't try to use it. I'm trying to cut it out, but I will see something. It gives me just that extra second of thinking time. And there are certain words that this person, who's a great friend of mine, brilliant mentor, listens to the show all the time, who helps me with all sorts of things, and she doesn't like me using, as she puts it, English words like bonkers. But the word bonkers is catching on in America.
Absolutely, yeah. So we always knew America, they broke free of British shackles.
We are aware of that, but thanks for letting us know, John.
250 years ago, but we always knew we'd come back. And we've sent lots of pop stars over there to try and crack America, but it's our slang words which are doing it now. So yeah, bonkers is creeping into American vocab. Surprising, I've never heard an American say bonkers.
Neither have I, no.
It's becoming incredibly popular. So that it accounts. This was a study by a language learning platform and a university looking at Britishisms. So we've always complained about Americanisms, candy and all the rest of it, soda, that sort of thing creeping over here. But more and more, they're loving British words because they're watching lots of British TV, like things on streaming services, Bake Off, and all that sort of thing.
Or even series like The Diplomat, for example, on Netflix, which is Americans in Britain.
Yes,
for example, so they're hearing some of that language.
Yeah, so they're picking up on it. So yeah, Bonkers is one. That's the most popular, and it's really the Gen Z, American Gen Z, are really loving it. Some other words that they're picking up on: kerfuffle. There's a couple of rude ones, I won't say them.
Yeah.
Flummox.
Flummox, right.
One of them rhymes with a certain fish, a pollock.
Does it? Right.
Yeah, they seem to love that.
Yes. Okay.
But there's lots and lots of words. They've started to say, but some of the less quirky words, they're saying Q instead of, they always say a line.
I was in America, I lived in America for about 1.5 years, and someone said to me one time, I was sort of dawdling, you know, when you're not sure is someone in the queue, are you not? And just saying, you know, are you in the queue, mate, or not? And he said, are you online? And I went, I've no problems with my Wi-Fi. It's like, no, are you online? Are you in this line? It's like, gee.
Yeah,
but I think it was Winston Churchill said, two great nations that are divided by a common language. So very interesting that they're picking up our Britishisms rather than Americanisms as well. John, fascinating to talk to you. You can tell me the rude words in the break as well as we go to a break. And thank you to everybody who's been in touch. We will take many more of your calls. Certainly Birmingham and the Maccabi Tel Aviv match is the main thing you want to talk about tonight. But whatever it is, 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now. Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Pete's been in touch about bonkers. He says bonkers was an American word to start with the American cartoon Bertie Bonkers. I don't know how true that is, but it's very interesting, Pete. And my friend who I was mentioning, who doesn't like me saying bonkers, who doesn't like me saying in regard to, and a few other things, she has been in touch. I'm going to give her the code name Wilhelmina. That is not her name, but I'm giving her the code name Wilhelmina, and I'm going to read out the message she has just sent me. I just came back into the room to hear you talking about me, I assume. Bonkers actually isn't that bad. Crackers is unacceptable. I love kerfuffle. There we are. That is Wilhelmina, who has been in touch about all of that. And Keith says, bonkers is one of my favourite words. Don't stop saying it. Great show and your Talk's best presenter, says Keith in Northumberland. You can keep saying that, certainly, Keith. There's no restriction on that. Just to say that you can catch up on all the highlights of today's show on the Talk Drive podcast. It's available from all your favourite podcast apps. It will be available in exactly 10 minutes' time, and all the highlights from today's show. Well, I just want to catch up with what David Lammy's been doing. We talked about him a lot on the show yesterday. In the last couple of hours, the Justice Secretary and Deputy Prime Minister has responded to the prisons crisis. He's given a clip to journalists. Let's just see what David Lammy has said.
Had 800 errors under the last government. This has now gone on for a generation. Our prison system is in crisis, so we have to bear down on this, but we have a mountain to climb. At the dispatch box, I did not have all of the detail. That detail was actually released just later, after I had finished at Prime Minister's questions. I took the judgment that it is important when updating the House and the country about serious matters like this that you have all of the detail. I was not equipped with all of the detail, and the danger is that you end up misleading the House and the general public. So that is the judgment I took. I think it's the right judgment.
David Lammy there, the Deputy Prime Minister, and probably not the first time he hasn't had all of the detail. Let's talk about Aston Villa. Lots of people getting in touch about that. Howard in Cardiff has been giving me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Howard, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for having me on. Just some points about the game, a few points if you don't mind.
Sure,
One
go for
is,
it.
I don't think this has anything to do with Tel Aviv fans. It could be any Israeli team that are coming across. It wouldn't make any difference who that was. So this is all about anti-Semitism and showing their strength to the authorities. So that's all it's all about. Interestingly, tonight as well, the West Midlands Police have also said that the reason why the fans are not being allowed there is because of the fans themselves from Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
Does that mean that no fans from Birmingham FC or West Brom or Walsall or anyone else who's travelling to Villa Park and the potential of much more violence there, does that mean they're going to stop them as well?
That's a really good point, Howard. And what you can do, as you probably know, is you can ban individual fans. There are banning orders, and surely they have the intelligence and good work with the Israeli police to say, look, we know who these hooligans are. There are certainly, and neither of us is denying that, Howard, there are hooligans who are supporters or associated anyway with Maccabi Tel Aviv. It's absolutely fine to ban individual people, but banning all fans is a ridiculous overreaction. And we know that there are many, many fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv who would have gone tonight, who would have cheered on their team, would have happily bought their pies and got their Cokes and all the rest of it and had a lovely time and left and behaved impeccably.
Absolutely. And how many would have actually have come across? 100, 200?
Yeah.
Are they saying that it needs 700 police to control 200 fans?
Well, there aren't even 200 fans. In fact, we're told there are actually only about 200 protesters there tonight. That's the latest estimate anyway from West Midlands Police. It's a sorry affair, Howard, and it says so much about our country at the moment.
I think the other thing as well, I saw a video on TikTok, and I'm not saying it was the same person, but one of the lawyer who's been involved in organising all this has put a video out tonight telling people that if they carry a baseball bat, they should also carry gloves and a ball so they won't get arrested.
I just can't. I've got to disassociate ourselves from that. We've got to be really, really careful what we say. And there's no suggestion that the lawyer you're speaking about there has suggested that. The problem often comes hard with, as we know, with AI. I don't know whether he said that or not. I strongly suspect he has not, because he's been very careful at keeping within the law previously, and there's no suggestion he would go outside the law. So I just have to be really, really careful about that, hard, and disassociate ourselves with those comments. But listen, thank you for the rest of your message. Leon's in Rochester, 03444991000. Leon, what would you like to say about this?
Hello. Right, I'm a non-practicing Jew. I'm 65 now, but I was 11 when I remember the Munich massacre, as it was called.
Yes.
When
at the Olympics.
That's right, at the Olympics, Palestinian militant organisation Black September.
Black September, that's right.
Well, they kidnapped Israeli athletes and murdered them. That's still stuck with me, and what I haven't heard anybody mention yet. I haven't been listening for the last hour, but I haven't heard anybody mention yet the athletes.
The football players themselves, yeah.
The safety of the team.
Yes.
I mean, to be surrounded by potentially thousands of Jew haters.
The interesting point in all of that, Leon, is that as we were being told by Lord Austin, and he's the son of Jewish refugees actually, and Johnny Gould, both big Aston Villa fans who are going to the match tonight, what's happened is to actually get the tickets, you've got to show a sort of, you've got to demonstrate that you've been to Aston Villa matches in the last year or so. So I think not only, I mean, I don't know how many matches you've been to yourself. I haven't been to many matches myself. I went to a Chelsea match, I think once. I went to a Leeds match when in the Championship. And the security is incredible at those grounds. So I think the emphasis will not necessarily be on the Aston Villa fans in the ground, and I'm sure there'll be measures to make sure they behave themselves as they usually do, but also what's happening outside the grounds as well. But certainly you're absolutely right to think about the players themselves, and as we know, they're not all Jewish actually. In fact, there's an Israeli Muslim who is part of that team as well, and they must be feeling the pressure here.
Yeah. Oh, there are many Mizrahi Jews, from Arab countries, from Iraq and everything like that. Are very pro Israel. But I appreciate your clarification on that. I wasn't aware of the security on that, but that's what's been bugging me all day. And
certainly. Well, I think, listen, I don't expect every single person to listen to every single second of the show, Leon. So absolutely no worries at all on that. And thanks so much for your call. I really appreciate it. Mick in Bromley, final call of Talk Drive today. Mick, what would you like to say? You're very welcome to the programme.
Hi, Pete. It's just, I was wondering, FIFA are in charge of all the European football. If we can't guarantee the safety of fans for a team, why don't they say to the English Football Association, if you can't guarantee their safety, we're not going to let you have any football matches there, European football matches. The whole lot's banned. Because why can you pick and choose which teams are going to be allowed to play? It's absolutely ridiculous.
It does seem outrageous, Mick. What do you think should have happened with this game? Should the fans have been allowed to go there? Should it have been played on a neutral ground? What do you think?
It doesn't matter who they put there, the police, the army, whatever. This game should have been allowed to play.
And the game will go ahead, but not with Maccabi Tel Aviv fans there tonight, in game starting in just over an hour's time. Yeah,
it should have been allowed, because this, to me, it makes all this bending the knee stuff seem like a load of rubbish. What is all this non-racism in sport if you cannot let the Jewish fans in to watch their game?
Well, we're told time and time again, Mick, they want to kick racism out of football. Well, what is anti-Semitism if not racism? Absolutely. Mick, listen, thank you for your thoughts there. Mick's the final call this evening. Thanks also to Graham in West Sussex. Says, if councils are that bothered about road safety, spend the money on potholes, which are a real danger to road users rather than flags. And Andy in Bridgend says, I wonder what my grandparents would have thought about all this divisiveness in this great nation, especially over flags. During World War II, this country was united under one flag and united for one cause. Sadly, as a nation, we're so divided, my grandparents would not recognise this country, says Andy in Bridgend. No doubt the controversy and the match, the Maccabi Tel Aviv match, will come up in Kevin O'Sullivan's show. He's here after the news. Kevin.
Hi, Peter.
Hi.
Obviously, we'll be monitoring and keeping the audience updated throughout the night. A very tense situation in Birmingham around the